We do that.
I do that.
The best racing is here.
We're live?
No, yeah, now we are. Hi, welcome to Tim's. That was kind of quick. Welcome to Tim's Corner Live, episode 54. Paul's going to put 54 up here. It's been a day already.
Want it with excitement? We do that.
Okay.
Sorry, long day at work. My bad.
Okay, do we want to start from the top and go?
Ready, set, go.
Go.
And we're live.
Okay.
Wait, the top?
We're not
Or the
rolling
middle top?
we're not rolling the cars.
We're doing it live.
Okay. We'll talk about the Cars tour in a bit because we got some exciting announcements coming up for Tim's Corner TV for at least this week at Hickory. Hi, welcome to it. My name is Tim Terry. That's Dylan Langell. That's Denver Matchett. Boys, this is a little bit of a different show tonight. I'll be the first to admit, and as Paul said, it's been busy. He's been busy on his end. I've been busy on my end by getting home. By the way, I'm back in Halifax. Trying to get some stuff together. Been working with a couple of racetracks, doing some press releases, been to meetings, doing all that sort of thing that gets ready for the racing season. And we got to last night and I was like, oh crap, we don't have any guests. So let's do this because Dylan, I know it's an idea that you, me, and Denver kind of had to see if this idea sustains of us talking for 60, 90, whatever it ends up being minutes about racing. And with this, the first week of spring, there's schedules are all out. People are getting excited. They're getting in the garage. They're working on their race cars. I figured this would be the week to kind of do it. And by the way, Denver, it's your last week before you do school things, right?
That is correct. I am away for the better part of a month, actually. The final exam, I have an exam after, but my final big exam is 1 month from today, April 23rd, which also happens to be the weekend of Speed Sport. Thankfully, that is a 9 a.m. exam, so we're going to, write that last exam. We're going to hit up Speed Sport, and then we'll see what happens after that. But you're right. For the next 4 weeks, I am taking a little hiatus to focus on some other things, and then we'll be back just as race season's about to ramp up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a very busy season coming up. I'm looking forward to Speed Sport and getting out and seeing everybody. And I think, Dylan, with that being the first event that the car community, whether it's motorsports or whether it's show cars or whether it's tuners or imports or classic cars or whatever your fancy is for cars and motorsports, it's the first real opportunity for the community to come together without any restrictions.
Yeah, and it's been a long 2 years, right? I mean, if anyone here is in Nova Scotia, we know that we just wrapped up most of the COVID-19 restrictions, but it's exciting either way because we just had the Atlantic Sports and RV show. The other RV show at the Halifax Exhibition Center is there this weekend. I saw Kyle Gammon and his whole family's water treatment company making posts about it. So that's going to be pretty cool. But yeah, Speed Sport at the end of April, first time in 2 years. First time in 3 years, actually. There wouldn't have been one in 2020. So it's nice to be getting back doing the events that we, took for granted, where, like, for example, I work in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia. Our provincial exhibition, the Big X, has not happened since 2019. And there's been a lot of chitter chatter and news about that. So the town is excited, and very similar to the racing industry, we're getting excited going back to the Moncton Coliseum at the end of April. And then 3 weeks later, we are in Fredericton for the first race of 2022 in the Maritimes, and that goes right until pretty much the middle end of October. It is very exciting, and it's just I'm seeing all the photos of all the boys and girls working on their cars, and I think it's really becoming go time for a a lot of teams, you had the winter to kind of chill out. Granted, we did have another mini lockdown with the restrictions, but it's getting real. Seeing a lot of posters and a lot of information being thrown out there. It's getting real, and it's going to be coming real fast, I think.
Absolutely. I think every schedule except for one at this point is out, and that is Sydney. And I can tell you we are very, very close on putting something out. 3 of those dates are already out. There are 2 that are still to be announced. They are doing a 5-race schedule up there. There's a couple of dates that are still to be announced, but they will be coming up fairly shortly. So we're with you for the next little bit. We don't have any guests tonight. Our guests are essentially you minus the Christmas party and Robbie McLean's sweater. So yeah, I know. I was going to ask Robbie if he wanted, I don't know if he has a spring sweater or not, but I'm sure he's got something along those lines. But drop us a comment.
I hope it's not with the Easter Bunny.
I'm sure we can ask him, and I'm sure there's something along those lines. But drop a comment below. Tyler Hallahan is here. I ran into Tyler Hallahan during the Bearcats game on Sunday night. 59 days, he said, and his car was in the shop, getting ready to go. He's looking, I think, at a mini stock tour run this year, and I think that's where a lot of drivers are looking. By the way, mini stock tour, AGM is coming up on the weekend. They have gone back to a society-based deal. Speaking of mini stock, Tim Webster is with us. Looking forward to seeing Tim on the weekend. Hopefully he's going to make it up to Truro. They had a venue change. A flood at the Hampton Inn puts us back at the Best Western Glengarry. So we are going to be there. I believe the AGM starts at 12, or the voting of everybody into the board, which technically they went private a couple of years ago. We're going back into a society-based sort of deal where you have a president, a vice president, a secretary, treasurer, all that fun stuff. So that gets voted on Sunday at 12. So if you want to be a part of it and you want to see what happens on the other side of it, and I think everybody that's been a part of this side, whether I know the Atlantic Modified Tour is driver only, but the Maritime League of Legends Tour, the East Coast Mini Stock Tour, that side of things, be sure to stop in and see what it's all about and be a part of that series, especially if you are a mini stock driver or mini stock crew member, what have you. And then the rules side of things happens afterwards at around 1:00. So there's lots to talk about there on that side of things. And it's going to be a busy season for them. Dylan, I know you've seen their schedule. There's a couple of racetracks that are on there, I think a couple times, but for the most part, diverse, almost like the hot rod schedule, where you're getting a little bit of everything throughout the season.
Yeah, and I'm liking that with a lot of tracks, to be honest, even with the new Maritime All-Star Sportsman Series, Sands being at Riverside a bunch, since that's the new house class replacing the Napa Sportsman Series. You know, it's going to different venues and going to different areas of the Maritimes, and going to be very exciting for the East Coast Mini Stock Tour. You know, I was talking with the fiance just about her summer plan. She's going away for a few weeks in July, and one of the weeks she's gone is that road course race at AMP, the July 9th, 10th weekend. And there's not really any other big races in Nova Scotia. I think is there a pro stock race at Petty that weekend? Tour race. So, you know, it's like, man, I may have to go up to that area and check it out. I haven't been to AMP in a long time. It's just kind of looking at the schedule and seeing, okay, this series and that series are all paired up. When we were filling in for you, Tim, when you were away that week, you know, Denver and I were talking about Oyster Bed. We had the OBS schedule, and it's so cool to have all these tours back together again. For example, at OBS on July 31st, and even earlier on the Canada Day weekend, you're going to have the East Coast Mini Stock Tour, the East Coast Mini Stock Tour, Heart of a Champion, Maritime League of Legends, all binded together there. Very exciting. And you know, I know we're going to be kind of hopscotching here and there. A little bit of a press release there from the Maritime League of Legends earlier, Tim.
Yeah, we actually had an executive meeting last night. And I know Jonathan Bull is watching. Want to say hi to Jonathan. And the good thing about their executive is we're going to have this conversation throughout the evening where it's hard to find people, regardless if it's a executive role, race operations. We're, you know, shameless plug, we're looking for people on the TCM side to do social media and, you know, holding cameras and telling stories that we do from the racetrack every single weekend. But the big thing that came out of what you were talking about is they are looking for a couple of folks, one of them being a technical assistant, which essentially is going to report to Trevor McDonald, who was our VP of technical direction during the race days, and also like a pit help. So somebody to, maybe do lineups or maybe run here, run there, just so we have that extra hand if we need something throughout the day. Always good to have those extra hands on deck, especially when you have people doing their dedicated roles. Denver, you know the fact from running a race operation side of things that it takes a team to do so. I'm biased. I've been on the League of Legends tour since like 1862. So I know the team. I know the dedicated drivers. I know what it goes in to put on that side of the thing. It's a great tour to be involved with. So if you're looking to get involved on that side of things, we talked about the mini stock tour with the executive and all that other stuff. But if you're looking to get your hands dirty on race day, might not necessarily want to hold the camera or want to be on social media or do whatever, and you want to be involved in actually putting on the race, it's a great opportunity for somebody to be a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. Think of like with these tours, the beautiful thing is I know some people say, it's a lot of traveling and stuff, but look at the bright side. You get to travel to so many different parts of our beautiful region, Oyster Bed Speedway, all across Nova Scotia, into New Brunswick. There's so many, you get to meet so many people too. And every single track, I know we can all attest to this, every single track in the Maritimes is very welcoming, very accommodating. And, we have some of the best racing around. So, it's definitely, worthwhile. Even check it out, send a message. It doesn't hurt, get some information from Tim or the folks at the League of Legends Tour, or, no matter where you are in the Maritimes, send a message out to your local track, local tour, and try to find a way to get involved. Because, we know that the cost of things are going up. Not everyone can afford a race car. Not everyone can afford to race as much. And just being involved, and every single person is a piece of the puzzle that helps keep this sport going round and round all summer long.
And that's just it. If you're in Miramichi and you want to be involved in racing somehow, and you're in Fredericton or you're in Moncton, Sydney, I know Lyndon and Kyle are just starting out their adventure. They're looking for good people. So if you know anybody, or maybe you want to be involved, maybe you don't have a race car, maybe it's your season to step back. Be a part of it. Just step up and say, hey, do you need any help? And I know all racetracks are looking for good hands, and all series are looking for good hands. Now, Mike Dusky has a good question. Before we get to that, though, Dylan, I know the person that asked the question earlier. Paul, can you put up the spa photo from last week? Thank you. Put that actually. So can you crop that so we can see Dillons Feet?
Oh boy,
I'm going somewhere with this. So somebody asked me about your feet. Did you get like a pedicure or something last week after?
Feet pics are $50.
Wow, they've gone up in price.
So is the price of gas and diesel, baby. $50.
So tell us about the spa experience.
Okay,
for somebody that's never been.
Okay, so for where I was at, I was on vacation. My fiance's a teacher, and she wanted to go to.
Paul's trying to get it.
He puts it right in the middle.
Yeah,
cuts me off. Imagine.
Stand by. There you go.
Okay,
it's coming. Tell your story.
All right, so I'm on March break, and this is called the Sensi Nordic Spa in Chester, Nova Scotia, and those are the feet. That's pre pedicure though, so those are gross.
That's enough of his feet.
Yeah, no, those are your freebies. We're gonna get some weird. Our views are gonna go up here, but we're gonna get some weirdos in the comments.
They're gonna go up or they're gonna go down.
I'm sure they're going down. You just wait.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's a Nordic spa where everything's outside, like your hot tubs. You've got different saunas and everything. It actually was a great time. I loved it. And the next day I went for a massage. I'm a big dude. I'm 6'5". I've had back issues forever. So I went for a massage, and fellas, ladies know for sure, but fellas, take care of your feet. Because when you're on your feet all the time, you get calluses built up, all this and that. Pedicures feel great. And another story time is a couple of years ago, I had a coworker at a radio station who, when I met him, he had his toenails painted. So I'm like, what are you doing that for? And he goes, felt like doing it one time. So then I got a pedicure for free and said, screw it. Give me some toenail paint, and did it. And I did it one other time, and then just cause why not? So am I whipping my feet out here or what on camera?
if the person that messaged me earlier and asked about your feet, if they're still around,
Yeah,
they can either put it in the comments or send me something, and we'll go with that.
They had to personally ask it. But anyways, it was a little bit of a self-care thing. And I know some people may, snicker at that, but hey, whatever, man. I feel great. I am stress-free because this racing season is going to be stressed. There's going to be some stress coming from it.
Oh, I'm already feeling the stress. We go back to 2 episodes ago. Denver, I know Meredith has mentioned the spa to you. Have you ever been?
No.
But you're probably going now that Dillon is gone.
Yeah. Thanks, but no thanks.
Okay, so anyways, you're going. You have a reason. Dillon has a reason.
Jesse's going to give me $50 to keep my feet away. Thank you, sir. I can send you my e-transfer information.
Couple of cases of beer at the racetrack, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I'll be all good. But honestly, though, it was a great time, and I would recommend it just to give her a go.
Yes.
It's not your typical you're putting the cucumbers on your eyes and everything kind of spa. You're more in hot tubs and saunas, and it's Swedish, Scandinavian, whatever you want to call it. So good times.
I feel like it's something that I can't get into, but I could probably be strong-armed into at some point.
I think you could.
These people want us to talk racing.
Yes, of course.
So let's go and talk some racing. Craig Mckay says, hello, can't wait for race season. I can't wait either. Looking forward to getting up to Sydney a couple times and, going through some of the travel sort of things we go through. I can't wait to get back to Louie's Cozy Kitchen. Great sponsor last year at the finale. It's right on the road in St. Peter's on the way up. You can't miss it. Easy in, easy out. We're not sponsored by them, but we would love to be. Great food. And I know Craig Mckay, that was one of his deals to get on. So Craig, good to see you. Looking forward to the racing season. Huge help when it comes to Sydney. Brent Patterson wants to know about the Power Wheels race at Speedway 660. I can tell you Kids Day is the plan on that. I actually talked to them today and mentioned some things. I'm assuming, let me backtrack on that. I assume that that's when it's going to be because kids race, the Power Wheels, Little Luggies, whatever you want to call them. That's, I think, the plan right now. They've got a couple of other things that I'm not going to let out of the bag, but they are, it's going to be big for Kids Day because Legal Legend Store is going to be there as well for the season opener. And they have some big news coming up, by the way, next week. I know I've been working with Wayne on some stuff for Petty coming up. So there are some announcements coming up the pipe. Can't let anything out of the bag because that's one of those things that it's been busy. And then all of a sudden we realized we had a show tonight. So I'm going to try to not let everything out of the bag tonight. So don't twist my arm as much as you can in chat. We'll leave it with that. Daniel Adio, haven't been on much, getting hard at her with the car. She's full swing for racing season. Tyler said there was 59 days or something until Scotia's opener. There's 7 days less at 660. So they better get on it. It's almost 50 days, 50 and change. Danny Harvey says, good evening. Before we got a couple of Riverside related questions. So Dillon put the dazzling jacket on. By the way, we did have an iRace on Monday night that you missed, the Mike on the Rock race. And somebody had mentioned the winner happened to be Noel Fougier, and he asked where Dillon was and if he's ironing his red sparkly jacket. So
No,
and I said the answer is probably no, but
he should know. It's he sits in the same booth we announce in. It's in the booth. So it's
you didn't take it home over the winter.
No. It's waiting there. I was doing something and someone said, "Oh, I thought you owned that jacket." It's like, no, that was bought for the 2019 season.
But if Joan Rui were to give that away to somebody else, that would be like highway robbery at this point.
That's my gas money for the year.
That's your. I don't want to say gimmick or shtick or whatever, but it's your. That's you.
But funny enough, we just recently had Danny Eddy on the show at the World Series of Asphalt in New Smyrna. Their announcer was wearing a dazzling jacket like me, except it was purple.
That's Rusty Marcus, though. That's his. I've known Rusty Marcus for years because he used to do the Winter Nationals deal with NX and took care of the Texas stuff. There's Noel Fougier on the screen from 2 nights ago with the Mike on the Rock race, dominated that thing in the hamburger helper car by the looks of it. Yeah, that Rusty is great. Yeah. Wayne Smith just messaged me and asked, did we get anywhere with changes to our press release? So to answer Wayne's question, no, we didn't. That'll be a tomorrow thing. Thanks for watching.
Why doesn't Wayne come on and make the announcement live right now?
Well, we kind of let the cat out of the bag. This announcement is one of those announcements that we kind of let slip out of the bag a little bit earlier. If you caught it in the last couple of press releases, it was kind of one of those, we threw it in under the radar and we didn't really just say anything about it, but you'll know hopefully tomorrow when it does come out. Kind of a neat deal. It doesn't really change a whole lot of, as Wade would put the water on the beans. But it's kind of a neat announcement. I'll just leave it at that. Riverside though, Denver, Drew McEachran wants to know, Denver asked me the last time I was on if we were doing anything different this year. So what does he think about our elimination race at Riverside?
Ooh, that's a great question, Drew. I will say I love thinking outside the box, and that is definitely thinking outside the box. What a way to drum up some excitement. But I have a proposal here, and so I'm sure there's going to be shots fired through the computer screen by some people. Why don't we get Dazzling Dillon to bring out the Riverside Roulette wheel? And why don't we invert the field at every elimination and make some of the top drivers sweat? That would be a real show, because then you put the Dave Matthews at the back and give them 10 laps to get past the elimination point. That, Drew, that would be, you take it from way up here to way up, like just blow the top off it. That would be wild. I'd love to see that.
See, I hope Kelly McIntyre is watching, or Ryan is watching, because I was told that they were going to try to kidnap that wheel and put it through a wood chipper. So I don't know if that went there that way or not, but I know that team, especially after what happened to Donald last year, wasn't happy with that roulette wheel. It makes things interesting. I don't know how interesting Drew wants to make it. You've been looking at my, oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. You know what though? It's funny because Dylan, the first time we did that was the Kaylee Honda triple 50s a couple of years ago. And it was one of those deals where everybody says going in, oh, it's gimmicky. Why are you doing this? Whatever else. And you know what? You look at the race. We had 3 different leaders for 50 laps. They all got, well, obviously the pole sitter got the advantage of going green from the pole after the heat races. But it changed the race a little bit. Track wasn't great that night. There really wasn't a second groove. So that kind of hindered everything too. But if you remember that night, Dylan Blankhorn went from 10th all the way to what? 3rd? And was able to get back up there at the end of that Kaylee Honda triple 50. So he was doing work. You could do work if you put your mind to it and put your foot to the floor. So I'm all for new things. I think it gives those guys at the back of the field for this elimination race an opportunity that if you're not on it, you have to be on it because you know where you have to be at the end of that segment. And I think that adds that other wrinkle.
I like it too. When I read that it was going to be an elimination style, I love it just for the fact that it's going to be putting a little heat to the bottom to some of these drivers who, maybe like to lay back a little bit and conserve their car. Well, there's not going to be much conserving in this race. It's going to be full tilt. It just adds a little something else. I know the Riverside Roulette, some liked it, some didn't. But this, though, it's all on the racetrack. It's all up to the driver. It's all in the driver's hands, basically. And, I've played video games, and I'm sure many people played video games where you can do elimination style. There's a game on the PlayStation 2 called Test Drive Eva Destruction, and there's that one goes lap by lap of eliminating. So if you start 20th, well, if you're in 20th position, lap 2, you're out, and so on and so forth. This one, it's more in chunks, but man, oh man, it's going to be intense on that bubble position.
I'm going to go a different way than probably what Drew was thinking. I think this makes that first race at Riverside even more critical and important because we've got a boatload of guys, and it happens every year. I want to go to Riverside with my mini stock. I race at PEI, or I race in Fredericton, or I race at Petty, and I've never been to Riverside and I want to go. Now that there's a couple of races there, you want to get there for that first one, because if you miss the mark in August, you might be eliminated the first elimination. And yeah, sure, you came for a heat race. Sure, you came for, a few laps or whatever else. But the main goal is to get all the laps in and be around at the end. So if you can help that, then that's even better. It might help you to be there early in the season. So it might augment the car count on that first East Coast Mini Stock Tour race up there too, because it might turn up the heat a little bit. Mike Dusky had a question about street stocks and who do we have to talk about getting the street stocks at Riverside? I know safety would be big, but I know there would be a big car count. Now, I know, Dylan, this was a little bit before your time. Denver, I think you had an idea on this. They tried this a couple of years ago. This was back when Paul still ran the racetrack. I think 13 or 14-ish, somewhere around there. And they tried to get street stocks. They had 2 registered. That was it. They only had 2 cars. So they kiboshed that and went to the Scotia Trucks and said, hey, come on up. So in short, as far as I know, that's how that went. So talk to Joan, talk to Donald, talk to those guys. If you guys can get a car count, I'm sure they'd be interested. But I know that is why the last time it failed. And I know there's some people that have longer memories in this racing industry. So Denver, the easiest thing might be just to talk to the racetrack. Just like anything. If you want to, I know the big talk has been Sportsman and Miramichi. If you can get a car count together and you can get a sponsor, I'm sure Barry would put it on the racetrack. You just need to have all your ducks in a row before you do it, right?
Absolutely, Tim. But there's a key similarity there when we look at Sportsman and Miramichi street stock at Riverside, and that's that there's really no amount of cars in that particular division in that region. We only have 1 Sportsman car in northern New Brunswick, that being Brady Creamer. In the Antigonish area, there's really, in Nova Scotia as a whole, there's not much in the way of street stocks outside of the cars that are down in Sydney. So when you look at it from that aspect, it's hard. It's hard to convince people to travel. I think the closest cars would be 2.5 hours ish from Riverside. So you look at Miramichi, you look at 660 drivers, that's 4 hours. So it's hard. And you throw in the fact that when they tried it in 13 or 14, it was a mid-season race. People were gunning for points championships. People, and now
it was a Friday night, I think, too.
It was a Friday night. You're right. I think for this to work, it would have to be almost an end of the season event sometime in October, after the fall shootout, after the Atlantic Championships at Shediac. That would probably be the best opportunity, because a lot of drivers, as much as everyone loves to try Riverside, it's also a very intimidating track when you go there for the first time. And I know a lot of people are worried about tearing up their equipment. And if you're, take that August date, if you tear your car up, then, if you're at 660, you're probably going to miss out on the final points night. You're probably going to miss out on speed weekend. So I think for Riverside, at least to get the ball rolling, it probably is going to have to be an October event. And I know it's been a couple of years since Riverside ran in October, and I don't know what it would take. That's up to Joan Rui, Donald, and the whole team there. But I think if the idea has obviously been thrown around for years and years and years, and everyone wants to try the track. Personally, I think the best chance this has it going through would be an October event. When everything else is pretty well all wrapped up, and people can go for one last try and check a track off the bucket list.
But we look at that Maritime Street Stock Series. There has been tracks that have come together and worked together on this. So it might not be one of those October sort of deals, but it might be something that they can put together in the middle of the season. But you did mention drivers are chasing points and whatever else. Rob mentioned it became $1,000 to win Legend Race. I think the money for that $1,000 to win deal transferred over, but I think they brought the trucks up for the Friday night, because I think it was I want to say the Pinty's weekend, maybe, or something Pinty's along those. Weekend. Yeah. I know there was a couple of $1,000 to win Legend shows up there, because I think that was the year that Rob can correct me if I'm wrong, because I think that was the year I went to PEI to call the race for Jeremy, because I pinched it for Jeremy one year, and it was the Pinty's weekend. And I think that was the year that Blankhorn jumped into Jeff Cruikshank's backup car, and him and Butcher went back and forth for $1,000. But and Mike had said, who do I contact? I think the info at riversidespeedway.ca email is the email they usually use. It's on the website. Go to riversidespeedway.ca and find the contact email. It'll get you to Joan Rui. That would be what it is. But I would think you'd have to get some sort of concentration drivers together. But Denver, you hit the nail on the head. It's one of those things. I'd love to see a sportsman race in Miramichi. I'd love to see a street stock race at Riverside. We're race fans. I'd love to see an Atlantic Modified Tour race at Scotia Speed World. But everybody's got to pitch together and make it happen. And sometimes that's easier said than done. And Dylan, we can sit here all day and talk about the cost of racing and how much it's gone up and what have you. And it'd be nice to see this, that, and the other thing. I'd love to see a late model stock race. I was spoiled the last month and a half, but we have no late model stock, so that's not going to happen here, sort of thing. Like it's one of those things where it has to be thought out. It's easy to say I want this, but you also have to deliver too. Street stocks in Sydney, same sort of deal where you were up there, Dylan. What do we have besides Michael Cormier and Wayne Smith coming up a couple of years ago? I think we had three cars.
Yeah, it wasn't very much. And that's the tough thing with Nova Scotia is just there's not a street stock division really anymore. God love the folks with the Cape Breton Street Stock Association trying to get that going, but it's a class that's just not really a thing here in Nova Scotia compared to New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island. It is for sure. And I'm seeing some of the comments here. Jeff McInnes wrote that it has to be a race that makes sense for the street stocks. They are committing to the other series and it's got to be big money. I can understand if you got a sponsor to step up there and let's say it was a $3,000 to win street stock race at the end of October, or that's the problem too, is would Riverside do a fifth race? Because you're going to have your 3 pro stock races. You're going to have your August typical Pinty's weekend. Now it's just grassroots racing. Are you going to have a fall foliage race in October? Who knows? Things could happen. It's tough. I would love to see it too. Like a lot of people are clamoring that they would want a pro stock race at Lake Dowsett Motor Speedway. And you can have a wish list of things you want, but it might be tough to get, unfortunately.
And I think the schedule is too. It's like, where do you put it in October?
Yeah.
Right? You've got the Mike Stevens weekend. You've got the Jim Hallahan Memorial, let's call it right now, at Scotia Speed World, because they're going to run the tour finale. And that's the Jim Hallahan race now. The next weekend is Sydney / Miramichi, the last couple of years. 2 events. They don't conflict in divisions. They don't conflict in splitting up drivers. So it works. The next weekend is Shediac. The weekend after that, Wayne has a race on October 15th this year. That puts you into October 22nd. I know the Spooktacular is up there. Sydney talked about going that deep in the schedule. They decided to go with October 1st. So do you go that deep and kind of hope? Last year was a perfect storm for Sydney. Crowd was great. The feedback was great. The drivers, it was a little cold, but it was a good show overall. But you go that deep, you play with fire when it comes to rain. So how much do you kind of play with fire to that point? And, oh, by the way, how much can this area sustain? Denver, we've talked about it. Let's address the elephant in the room. There's 19 weekends or 20 weekends with major pro stock races, over 100 laps is what we're talking, or 100 laps and over. There's about the same amount with sportsman races. Obviously the Shriners Classic, we've got one coming up at Scotia that we haven't fully announced yet. I can't let the cat out of the bag on that. But for those that were there last year can kind of see where I'm going with that. Still working out the irons, but if you have a sportsman car, you can go anywhere you want to. There's going to be one 100 lap or more race, or 75 or 50, let's put it that way, extended distance for them. For a pro stock, if you want to go somewhere and race, there's a 100 lap race somewhere, whether it's the East Coast International Pro Stock Tour, open races, 250s, whatever. It's this. There's a lot in the schedule this season, it seems like.
I have the numbers here in front of me, Tim. We were, like you said, we were kind of talking about this last week, so I kind of did a little bit of research, a little bit of math. And if we're speaking to the divisions, looking at pro
Did you
stock,
do your own research, Denver?
Yes. This is 100% my research base that was procrastinating from school at the time. For pro stock, and we're talking we got 22, 23 weekends in the run of race season, from about Victoria Day to Thanksgiving. Pro stock has 20 races that are 100 plus laps in length between the 6 tracks that run pro stock. There's 31 total pro stock races when you account the weekly shows. Sportsman has 20 races, 75 plus laps in length, 54 races in total amongst, I believe, 7 tracks that run Sportsman. And then Street Stock has 17 big races that are 50 plus laps in length, 35 races total throughout the Maritime. So that's a lot of races. And I think one thing I've noticed here in New Brunswick too, Tim and Dylan, when you look at the divisions, in Nova Scotia, there's not, like we said, there's not really any street stock to speak of outside of what they have in Sydney. It's primarily pro stock and sportsman. Then you get into your legends, your mini stocks. On PEI, there's no sportsman, it's street stock. So there's the pro stock and the street stock. New Brunswick has all three. New Brunswick has pro stock, sportsman, and street stock. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic, the way the divisions work. And then you throw in the Atlantic Modified Tour in New Brunswick. There's a lot of divisions. We're seeing the car counts get split up, and we're seeing a lot of big races get thrown in too. And it's really, it's kind of stretching that wire, and you almost wonder how far can you stretch it before something's got to give here. a lot of drivers are putting out schedules with street stock, and they're focusing on those big races, 100 laps, 75 laps, 50 laps. And I'm sure we're going to see the same thing with sportsmen. So, a lot to chew on and a lot to think about, but, we're seeing a lot of these big races and a lot of races in total. We really need to try to find ways to grow car counts and grow the inventory of cars that we have to make all this flourish, really.
I want to leave the street stock debate and kind of go on to another area, but Freddie Bannister did have a comment about if they change the automatic transmissions and put a standard transmission in, would it help the class? I think they have bigger problems right now. I don't want to say problems. The racetracks are working together to get this thing as close as they can. So I don't want to say that's not the biggest problem that they have. I don't own a car. Between the three of us, we don't own street stock cars, so I can't really comment on that. He did mention about the street stock class coming back to Scotia. I can almost guarantee you that's not happening. They're dead set. There was a conversation about it a couple of years ago. I just don't see that happening. But it would be nice. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see the modified tour there. I'd love to see all kinds of different entertainment, because it brings people in the gate. Greg Dow brought up tires, and actually I had this conversation about 4 times today already about tires and specifically legend car tires. But it's all Hoosiers. How's it going to play into racing? I think it's going to change everything. Denver, I think you hit the nail on the head. 20 something pro stock races. Are there going to be enough tires? Nobody has the answer right now.
You're right. Nobody has the answer. I know Speedway Miramichi, we don't sell a lot of tires. We do have some tires, but our only class that operates the Hoosier tire is the street stock class. And, we only run a few races, and most drivers run used tires given the track surface. But I know that we're questioning what we're going to be able to get for our tires. We don't even know if we're going to be able to get any this year. And I know that's a problem across all tracks. And we're starting to see, I know our season gets started a little bit later, but starting to see tracks down in Maine. I know Wiscasset made a big post here within the last week or two stating what their tire policy was going to be for this year. And one of the big things, I think they said there's no practice tires being sold. You get like 4 new tires at the start of the year, and then you get 1 or 2 tires with every race. I don't know what again, with Miramichi, it's not so much our problem. So there's higher powers that are going to be looking at this and trying to deal with it. I don't know what the tire management strategy is going to be from a track perspective and from a driver perspective, but there's a lot of races. I know Hoosier Tire has said that I believe it's been stated they expect to make fewer tires than what they made in 2021. And in 2021, we had a shortened season, to call it what it was. That we did lose races. It was a late start and whatnot. So if we're looking at a full season here at all tracks, it could be tight. And, it's hard to say what the situation's going to be. It's going to make for an interesting season, to say the least. I know that there has been races that have been outright canceled in Southern US because of the tire shortage. I hope it doesn't come to that here. I don't think it will. But it could take getting creative. Again, no one really seems to know what's going to be coming. Yet even the Hoosier distributors don't seem to know what is going to be available to sell. But that's not really a good thing when you don't know.
Yeah, and that's just it. You hit the nail on the head. I think it was I want to say the Carolina Pro Late Model Series that canceled one of their races down south for not having tires, not being, and we're talking February and March. We're not talking the end of the season. We're talking February and March, and it's a shortage of product everywhere, whether it's rubber, chips in cars. I'm having issues getting cameras for the new season to try to get those up to date because they're short. We're waiting a couple of months in advance to get equipment for our stuff that we can do our live thing at the racetrack every Friday night and Saturday night. So there's that sort of thing too. It's going to let promoters or make promoters and even drivers, I think, too, think outside the box of how they do things and how everything works. As far as I know, the 1070, the 890, they're still being produced. It's just a matter of how much we get up here. Same thing with the Legend Car tire. I had 2 Legend Car teams today ask me about tires. I don't know. Register with an X. Make sure you're registered. So make sure you're at least sort of in the queue for when that does come up the pipe. But we don't have the answers. we can sit here and we can kind of volley back and forth all we want to with the topic, but nobody has the answers right now. Nobody has a crystal ball. If it was perfect, we'd all have tires. We all go race. Jordan Frazier's watching. We're kind of going back to the comments that we had a couple of moments ago, because we get on a topic and we rant, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. So seeing that you guys are actually still listening to it, so thank you for that. Jordan can't wait. Frank Frazier, the legend, is coming back. Look out! That's all the tips I have for the other sports drivers, and hang on. Something about he usually has no patience and makes no friends. But I love seeing Frank race. I love seeing a good race on the racetrack, but seeing Frank on the racetrack the last couple of years, in the sporadic starts that he's had, has been great. We obviously had him on the show, Dylan, here a few weeks ago. A few weeks ago, it was December, I think it was. One of our best shows that I think we've had. Started December, it was. So go back and take a look at that if you get tired of us talking here tonight, because that was a good show. And just I can't wait. I can't wait for racing season to start. But to see him back in a sportsman car, see him in a couple of those Auto World All-Star, Maritime All-Star sportsman races, and who knows where else we'll see him throughout the season. I'm sure we'll see him up near the front at some point this year.
Yeah, I mean, how many drivers that started their career in the 60s are still going? I think in the Maritimes, it would be Wild Willie and Frank?
Rick Cashel, maybe?
Rick Cashel, the villain, yeah. Like that's the 3 or 4 guy, 3, 4, 5 tops. It's just going to be wicked to see him. What a guy, what a legend. Got to soak it in for when these guys are still driving. I don't think there's really truly hanging up the steering wheel. The R word doesn't exist, but I know we'll probably see him at Riverglade. I think there was the plans for him to be back at Riverglade last year, but I'm sure he'll be at Petty. I'm sure he'll be at Riverside. Maybe he'll even go down to Lake Dowsett. I can see Dan McGrath's watching, wondering about that Lake Dowsett race there. So maybe the 23 car will make an appearance down that way.
He's been on that racetrack before, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him up front, because I know those guys know how to get a car tuned up and going well for a sportsman car down there. I know Sean Pierce is watching. He's been busy working on sportsman cars from Lake Dowsett. I'm still going back in comments here, which is kind of why I'm looking off the other screen. Freddie Bannister, back about half an hour ago, this is how far we're going back, wants to know, and it's a good point. What are you guys looking forward to the most this coming year at any of the tracks this year event-wise? And usually I say, what event are you looking forward to? And it's the next one. For me right now, that is the doubleheader weekend at Scotia Speed World. I may have a conflict that first weekend at 660. I haven't told them yet. Surprise. We'll work through it at some point. But the first weekend at Scotia is what I'm looking forward to, at least to start off. East Coast Mini Stock Tour, East Coast International Pro Stock Tour, obviously the Car Star Weekly Racing Series season opener. That's going to be huge. And then the whole season as a whole. Somebody told me today, they're like 17 weekly races. It's a lot of races, but here's my logic on this. We rain out Friday night races. We don't make them up. So once it's done, it's done. I don't know if you guys have historically looked at May and June. Weather's not great in May and June. So we're probably going to lose at least 2 or 3 at the start. That 17 becomes 14 some quick. So obviously you're ready to go. You put the budget aside. Everybody's looking forward to going. And then all of a sudden it's not. And it sucks. But that brings that number down a little bit, because I'm sure we're going to lose races throughout the season. It's going to happen. It's bound to happen. It's rain. I like we don't make Friday night shows up, because I can go somewhere else with my weekend and do other things with my weekend. And I think that's what our racers like as well. If they rain out Friday, they know they're not racing for Saturday or Sunday. They can go out and do other things with their weekend, spend time with the family, do whatever. So I'm looking forward to that. Obviously, top of my list every year is the Shriners Classic. I think everybody knows that. It's one of the most meaningful shows that we do at Scotia every year. The AJK last year was big. Obviously, we got the Sportsman 100 coming back this year, the Torsec Thunder and Lightning on the Hill races. I'm biased because I'm at Scotia every Friday night. Love the crowd, love everything about it. I love going on the road with the tour, love visiting, Speedway 660, Speedway Miramichi, going up to Sydney, love those road trips. I'm biased to Scotia Speed World. Denver, what are you most looking forward to this year, at least 2 months before the season starts?
Well, I'm looking forward to the whole season. It's starting to get close to the season, and you start to get that anticipation. But from the Miramichi bias, the very best fall shootout, top of my list every year. The Day of Eights, that figure eight trailer race, that was so wild last year. The crowd was the biggest crowd we had seen in years. Really excited for that one to come back. But outside of that, you look at Speed Weekend. What is it? The 21st or 22nd year, something like that, for the Pro Stock 250 and Speed Weekend at Speedway 660. I was speaking to Brent a couple days ago, and I said, like, 660 to me is almost like a second home. If I wasn't at Speedway Miramichi, I was at Speedway 660. So that place, I always loved going there and watching that 250 that whole weekend. It nothing beats it. But also the Mike Stevens Memorial Weekend has been, talk about a show the last couple of years, the way that event has taken off. If that one's not on your bucket list, right alongside Speed Weekend and the IWK 250 and the 250 and Jim Hallahan race, like, we talk about big races. There's so many big Pro Stock races. They're all big, but those 250s and plus the Mike Stevens Memorial, those are you don't want to miss them. You want to get to all of them for sure, and all the drivers want to get to them, and they all want to win them. So it's definitely looking forward to all those ones. But Dylan, I know you have a lot to look forward to. You might be just as busy as Tim, if not busier this summer with all the races you have in your calendar.
Yeah, there's a few there, but we had this question when we were shooting the breeze, filling time, kind of doing this before, talking about exciting races, and that was back in December to combine
December. It was January,
something like that.
around, yeah.
But, an obvious one for me being at Riverside is the IWK 250. I've only really experienced two 250s in my life, so I'm hoping that we'll get a full one in here this summer looking like it, and hopefully Mother Nature now cooperates. That's pretty much our next obstacle, is hoping Mother Nature plays along. Rain on Tuesdays, maybe even Wednesdays, no weekends. Early on in the season, you're the first Pro Stock race at Scotia, the weekly racing series opener, going to be great. And then on another note, I'm very much looking forward to that June 4th opener at Lake Dowsett Motor Speedway with Heart of a Champion, the Vintage Tour, and the Auto World Maritime All-Star Sportsman Series. Those two series, one is brand spanking new, one's only been around for a few years, and it's going to put on a different kind of show for Southwest Nova Scotia. I can see some comments already. Stacey Clements, he's ready for that race. He was saying, this is Hanley country. Junior Hanley was born in Port Mattoon in Southwest Nova Scotia. That is Hanley country. And just the hospitality already. I can see all the posts in the Lake Dowsett group. They've already got t-shirts made up for this race, Tim, in Denver. So it's going to be big. I may have to burn a vacation day from the radio job just to get ready the day before. And the hospitality has been incredible already so far. And we are a few months away from June. That's going to be a massive race. First go with the opener for Heart of a Champion and for the Auto World Mass Series. It's going to be wonderful. Can't wait.
It's probably the race that I'm most looking forward to that I'm not going to be there for. If there's any way to kind of put that, because I'm going to obviously be at Petty, and they've got a big card that night too. They've got the East Coast International Pro Stock Tour, race number 2 of the season. The Maritime League of Legends Tour is there. And, oh, by the way, the kickoff for the Maritime Street Stock Series, the Old Fashioned Meat Market 100, and it's got some big money on that one too. So you've got two really big cards that night. We keep going back to this. It's something we talk about at the summit with these racetrack owners and promoters and series, that you've only got, let's call a spade, 22 to 23 weekends from the first weekend in May or the second weekend in May before the 2-4 and Thanksgiving-ish. You can probably push it a couple of weeks if you really want to, but Thanksgiving-ish weekend, it's about 22 weekends there. There's going to be big events at Conflict, as long as they're not in the same geographical location. And at this point, when you look at the two cards that are there on June 4th, there's a big sportsman race, there's a big Pro Stock and Street Stock race, and obviously the hot rods are down there too at Lake Dowsett. If I'm in Southwest Nova, it's biggest event they've ever had, or they've had since probably the Riverside Lobster race a few years ago, and the Wedgeport Lobster race back when it was the Napa Sportsman Series, when they paid, I think Steve Ross came out of there with almost 10 grand. Those were big shows, but we're talking, for the Riverside Lobster race a couple of years ago, but for that Wedgeport race 10, 12 years ago, I think it was 2013 or 2012 when the last time they had it. Might have been earlier than that. So there's some big events coming up. Denver, I know we looked at the schedule. I think July 2nd is probably, and I apologize. The master schedule's not up yet. July 2nd, I think, is the busiest day in maritime racing this year. You've got the Auto World Mass at Shediac. You've got, well, July 3rd, 660 moved their July 2 race to July 3. But let's call it on that weekend. Obviously, Scotia's got a weekly race that weekend on July 1. You've got the Oyster Bed Speedway Pro Stock Tour event with support classes, Maritime League of Legends Tour and the like, mini stocks and what have you over there. Miramichi, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is running there. And I don't want to say it's a free for all, but again, it's either a weekly show or it's a major event where it doesn't necessarily conflict. Yeah, there's 2 major sports and races that weekend sort of deal, but now they're on different dates. By the way, while I'm on the rant, I know there was some conflicts between Brent Roy, Speedway 660, Tim Wild, the Center for Speed. Hats off to both of them for actually working out their conflicts. 3 years ago, 5 years ago, racetracks working together in the Maritimes. No, that ain't happening. Now they're actually talking to each other and actually working this out. So hats off to both of them, because I know they had more than one conflict and they all seem to work it out. Now, we might sit here in 5 years and say, well, that was a nice time. They're all back to bickering at each other. But at least right now, where we are, we're talking about the present. They're actually working together, which is nice.
You're 100% right, Tim. And I can add to that from Miramichi's perspective. I think if people might recall that mass race at Shediac was originally scheduled for July 16th, and something came up. They had to do some schedule shuffling, and Tim Wild called up Barry and said, look, we're looking to change our date because of some things that came our way. We know you're racing that day. Is there any way you can, change your date or whatnot? And Barry and me talked about it. We looked at things and we said, well, we can't really, there was no other date that worked for us, but we said, look, you guys are running Sportsman. We'll give the street stocks night off. You guys can run street stock. We'll bring in the modifieds, give the modifieds a spotlight that night. We'll have our mini stock and our bomber, and we won't really have, while it's a scheduling conflict, the tracks are running at the same time, there's no division conflict, so it's not splitting those drivers up, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. Like we've said, there's only so many weekends, and we are very fortunate to have the quantity of tracks that we have in the Maritimes. But at the end of the day, to make it viable, we say it all the time, racetracks are a business, and running 3 or 4 times for the most part doesn't cut it. So being able to work on those divisions and make a go of it and not have conflicts that splits up your field, it gives the fans and drivers all around better show and better experiences. And Tim would return the favor with that. There was a miscommunication or I believe with the schedules, and we had another day where the street stocks were on the same day. He said, look, you guys are giving us the street stocks July 2nd, we'll give you guys the street stocks that day. And that's how it should be, is compromise, give and take, work together, all for the greater good. And it all really started with the summit, I think, in the first summit. And then it kind of, I think, Tim, when the summit happened, it started the discussion, but it really wasn't until COVID hit where we saw the New Brunswick tracks kind of pick up the ball and say, we need to work together because we're all facing the same issue right now.
And let's be honest, there were some things during the COVID that racetrack, like there was a late model Sportsman deal. I know they were working on at one point. It was announced to the point, whatever, then COVID hits and it doesn't happen. But the Maritime Street Stock Series comes to be. I know they were working on some pro stock stuff. Obviously, with the schedule the way it is, it's not a issue or not happening this year. But I can tell you, they've been working on stuff for each division, at least trying to see if there's an opportunity for something to happen. So when like-minded individuals pull the rope in the same direction, it lifts all tides, it lifts all ships. So these folks are doing a great job. Now there are still some conflicts. Let's call a spade a spade. There are some New Brunswick, Nova Scotia conflicts that are easy fixes, but they don't want to fix it. But it is what it is. We are getting places. We're not completely all there, but we're pretty damn close compared to where we were about 5 years ago. Mark Williams says he's late. What did I miss? There is a replay button if you want to go back, and for some reason, I don't know why you'd want to listen to us for how long are we on here? 53. Oh, wow.
Time's flying.
Time flies. And Paul's asleep over there, which is great. Now I heard a little rumor from somebody that I ran into. I ran into everybody at the Bearcats game apparently on Sunday night, except for like Dylan Blankhorn. He owns Truro pretty much, so I didn't see him. He's the only one I didn't see, but I saw him Friday at Auto World, and that vintage car that they have in the shop, that is a beauty. I know Paul just had an extra procedure on his ankle to get fused up and ready to go, and being able to push the pedal on that thing. I can't wait to see that thing in person go around the racetrack. But I know Dylan's excited to get the season going and everything else. I'm jumping all over the place. Brent asked about hats. There's 3 hats left at Auto World. So I left a dozen in there. They flew off the shelf, almost literally. When something's there and Marshall sees it flying off the shelf, you know it's a big deal. But there are 3 hats left, $30 a piece. I have more hats here for the season, Speed Sport, what have you. And I do have some bucket hats left. I don't have many, but I do have some bucket hats left. And I know Meredith is probably listening, and I know there's a couple of others that wanted bucket hats. I still have them here. But if you want a hat, Auto World Truro, easiest place to go, $30 at the service counter. Go see Marshall. But I heard something about a legend car coming out of Mark Williams' shop. A 4-cylinder guy might be driving it this year. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but I heard legend car, 4-cylinder driver moving up. These things are easy to work on. And then I said, have you actually driven the race car yet? And the 4-cylinder guy said no. And I said, well, just wait until you get a couple laps underneath it, and we'll see how much you like it or hate it after a couple of laps. If Mark's still listening, I don't know if I can say anything, but that's all I'm going to say right now. Me and Mark could tell stories. We need to get Mark on the show at some point. Me and Mark could tell stories for days. Bob Goodwin. Oh, look, it's Timothy back in the Great White North Hood. Hood to see you, pal. Well, I think everything was fine there until he hit the autocorrect on one of them. But while we're on the topic, match races, we got any ideas for Barry this year, Denver?
Me and Barry have already had the discussion, and we already have. We're not going to do it every race. It's one of those things that you don't want to. You don't want too much of a good thing. But we have, I think, 5 match races circled on the calendar that we would like to do, pending confirmation from getting the drivers on board. But I know we have some good ones, and if they all go through, they're going to be exciting. It started something big, and I will say I think we're hoping to start off the first one with a father and daughter combination, but I'll leave it at that. But we have. There's some people who might get a little surprised when they get a phone call from Barry being like, we want you to be in a grudge match. What do you think?
So since you opened the door, so it's either Amber and Chris or Krista. That would be one option.
Could be.
Oblinus's. Could be. Hoyt.
Could be.
Who else am I missing here? It's got, I would say probably those 3 combinations are on your radar anyway.
Correct. They're on the radar. To call it what it is, obviously they're on the radar.
So when the Hoyt thing comes up, let me know. I don't have a Miramichi race on the schedule right now. I need to find a Miramichi race, which is going to break somebody else's heart because I'm not going to another race. But I need to find a Miramichi race somewhere because the last race of the season, today, I was told there's a banquet in the end of 2022. So I can't go to that one. So I got to find a Saturday to get up there and go. And I might have to slip away from Sydney for October 1st. We'll figure that out. Somebody's schedule is going to happen. But I did see that Amber shared the schedule today, and I asked her what races she was going to be in, and I haven't got a response yet. So hopefully, Denver, the answer is all of them.
Yes, hopefully it's all of them. I know Amber, working on the front line in the hospitals, didn't get to a lot of races last year. I don't even think she got to the track at all. So hopefully we get to see her get back out this year, and may or may not be in a grudge match. We'll see. We're not going to say anything for sure yet. And I see Doug's here in the comments proposing Joe and Brittany. If the rumors are true, that could be every Atlantic Modified Tour race here in a couple of years. So we might have to, unless Joe's going to retire. Brittany's been trying to get Joe to retire for a couple of years. Okay, and I'm sure Doug would love that.
Okay, so retiring, we already said this once in the first 58 minutes of this show. Retiring doesn't happen, though. The only one I think that has stayed retired so far has been Sean Turple. But that's going to change. We need to get Sean back in a race car. So anybody that's out there, we can try to twist Sean's arm a little bit. But she did a couple of, I haven't talked to her since August, pretty much last year. It's been a while. So she's done some powder puff races. So would she have the upper hand because she's run a demo car before?
No, because Joe Hoyt has about 3 years of experience in enduros that no one really seems to know about or remember. But I have no problem telling.
But when you did demos in 1960, does that count?
Joe Hoyt wasn't alive in 1960. Ricky
Cashel was.
You're gonna get hate for that comment. Joe is not. We're trying to get Joe on the show sometime, and you just said he raced in the 1960s. That's not going to work out real well.
I know my phone's not going to light up because it's not going to be Brittany lighting up my phone, but I'm sure Joe will give me some flack for it. But if Joe's free next week, he can come on the show. You're not here next week. It's me and Dylan, so Joe can come on the show next week, right, Dylan?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Dylan could be the mediator for, we saw Joe Hoyt's not the type of person to typically show emotion, but we did see him go give a couple drivers a tap on the roof this year and be like, look, you should tap out because you just wrecked me. So, maybe, he might be coming tapping on your roof, Tim, saying you need to tap out on that one.
I'm not driving a car though.
Yeah, but you just said that he raced in the 1960s.
I did, unless Barry plans on using my car as the pace car again.
Well, we'll see. I thought a Modify was supposed to run into your car last year. Wasn't that part of a plan?
So, there was a Travis Conroy conversation that stays in Miramichi.
Yeah, what happens in Miramichi stays in Miramichi. That's something we say all the time because you can't make up the shit that happens at our demos.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm working from where we were about 15 minutes ago down comments. So I see Freddie and Doug and Blake are down there. We're going to get to them in a second. Curtis Lindsay says 65 Motorsports is coming for the Shriners race. After the race that he put up in October, that's going to be one that's tough to beat when it comes to Scotia Speed. Ryan Spencer excited for the big sportsman races at Petty this summer. There's some big races with some big pro stock and sportsman races on the same card. I know there's some racetracks that don't do that, but I like to see that. I mean, as a race fan, I like to see the big races. I like to see the late models. Petty's got a lot to be excited for if you're a race fan up there this year. Sean Pierce is still getting the cars together. He's had a couple in his shop. He's been busy the last little bit. Freddie Bannister 4K to win at Petty for street stocks in June, going to be a big night. That's it. June 4th, you got to be at a racetrack. I don't care if you're at Lake Dowsett or you're at Petty. You got to be at a racetrack. Get there and watch some races. Amber McDonald is always watching. Want to say hello to her. Austin Hiscock Racing. I'm sure that's Adam. Any room on the schedule to get to the Rock? Dylan.
Ooh. Does Eastbound has their schedule out, right?
They do. So here's an idea. Now, as far as I know, Mike James is not going to be. And I'm probably letting a cat out of the bag. Mike James has told me he's not going to be at the August 21st card. That is the day after Riverside's grassroots extravaganza Summer Sizzler event, Wilson Equipment Summer Sizzler. So it never rains at Riverside unless it's like 74 laps into the IWK 250 and Greg Proud leads for like 24 hours. Now I'm hopping a jet, Air Canada, going over there and announcing that show. So you may as well just come with me.
But Mike's not going to be there.
I'm going to be Mike.
But I got to meet Mike.
I got to shave my head. Say, well, you're going to meet him at Scotia a couple of weeks before because he's coming over for monster trucks.
But I'm in Sydney when the monster trucks are there.
Are you there on Friday? Are you there on Sunday?
Nope. Nabai.
Okay. I mean, Mike says he's coming over and having a party.
We are having a party. I will make it work. Whether I got to haul ass back from Sydney for Saturday night, we're going to make it work. But, I would love to get there. It's tough with life and schedules. I mean, you're talking about planning. I'm planning a wedding for 2023. There's all kinds of stuff we're all planning for. So I want to get there eventually. I would also need a large sum of money. So I'm going to have to sell some feet pits.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we can talk about with Mike. I know he's looking forward to coming over here, and yeah, it's one of those deals. I know Denver back a couple of years ago, we had discussed about a group trip to Newfoundland and going over and experiencing, because it's one of those deals that if you've never been to Eastbound, it's one of those places where you got to go over and experience. Take a week. It's a vacation destination. If you've never been to Newfoundland, you've never been to George Street, you've never seen the hospitality at that racetrack. You talk about Lake Dowsett. On the mainland, Lake Dowsett is the place to be, I would say, for hospitality. Newfoundland is about the same. You go over it and you're treated like family. Racing's great. They've got late models. They've got, the legend cars, the hobby stock 4-cylinders, the Bandoleros, some great talents coming out of there. Mike mentioned on Monday night when we were doing the Mike on the Rock, Nick Codner coming through, youngest player to ever play at the Briar. He's playing the juniors, I think, in Ontario this week. Raced a Bandolero out there. Again, great people. We can go on and on. We had the Thorns on here before. Brad Melindy, Mark Best, the Beast has been on the show before. I want to get Phil Fowler on the show here before the season starts. I know he's got some big things coming up, but he's not ready to announce them yet. So Phil might be on the show here in the next 4 weeks to Denver. You might actually miss that. But there's some great people over there, and looking forward to getting over there at least once, the August 21st race. And then I'm going to try to get over there earlier in the season. I know they've got something big cooked up in June. Can't let the cat out of the bag yet. They've got some big stuff coming in August. They've got some big shows coming up. And of course, IHRA sanctioned drag strip over there too. Make a weekend of it. If you're on the mainland, tickets right now for flights aren't that bad either. Book your flight now before they go insane. Book a rental car, just take a couple of days, or drive your own car over and go over. It's an experience in Denver. I know you want to get over there at some point.
I sure do. And I can say, while I've never been there and it's on the bucket list, our tech director at Miramichi, Eldon Campbell, he made the trip to Eastbound Park just this past summer, and he hasn't stopped talking about it. The facility, the racing, the people, everything. He has spoken so highly of it. So it's definitely one of those destinations you just got to get to. Just got to see. Hopefully one of these years it'll be in the cards for myself, and we'll see. Hopefully get over there and see some racing and get to meet everybody.
Rob said Eastbound needs to be seen in person. We went over with Chelsea one year for the 150, and Chelsea's running around somewhere else. I'm announcing the race from the infield with Mike on a wireless, and we're standing on top of a trailer, and just you could see Rob's face. Rob obviously gets excited real easy. Just like me, if you're at a racetrack, you can kind of see the excitement and the joy, but you could just see the eyes wide open on Rob, just taking everything in. It's the facility, it's the experience, it's the people. I know the Mitchell Fahy team hasn't been racing over there a couple of years. They used to bring me moose jerky. I got delivered a roast beef sandwich on the top of the tech shed one year by Krista and Scotty Wright. It's an experience. If you haven't been, I know there's a lot of people talking about, well, the borders are open. We're going to go to New England, by the way, New Hampshire Motor Speedway, and Better 301 weekend. Get there. It's on the bottom of the screen now.
Speaking of Tim, that weekend in New Hampshire, if the Cup Series racing, I mean, this next gen car is made for some great racing. I just seen an announcement here at Lee USA Speedway. The Friday night Granite Stake Pro Stock Series is going to race there. 10,000 to win, and NASCAR Cup Series drivers Tyler Reddick and Corey LaJoy are going to be in the field.
Dirt duels at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, though. So you're going to want to be there for that.
You need to split yourself up that weekend. Got to be everywhere. There's
I'm a fairly big guy. I don't know if I can split myself up. I mean, there's a lot of me to go around.
It's a good problem to have, really.
Yeah.
We are so privileged to have so much racing at our fingertips in this maritime Atlantic Canada, New England region, right? There's just so much. It's almost like you're at the buffet and there's so much you want to try, but you just can't get to all of it, unfortunately.
But that's why you're a big guy like me. And
that's why.
I know you were going there.
But you know what? One good thing with COVID, buffets have been off the table. I didn't lose weight. Sorry,
they aren't down south. I can tell you that much.
Golden Corral still in business?
Absolutely, it is. Randy Titus says it's not a big race, but a big car count could draw with the gunslinger with 40 or more cars this year. Now, I chatted with and we had Brent Roy on the show a couple of months ago, and we were talking about the car count, what they're going to do, whether it's a B feature per se, and you transfer to the A if they have 30 or 40 cars, or if they split them up A and B. I was, for here, we're spoiled to the fact where you have, a bunch of heats and then you run a B feature and you transfer into the A. I grew up in Scotia. We had 30, 40 Thunder cars. When I started busting into this deal, obviously they had G and H features on hobby stock nights and Dukes nights back in the 80s and 90s at Scotia. But when I was at Clarksville Speedway and they had, I think, 42 pure middies show up, they split it up into A and B features. It's not a bad idea. I'm kind of sold and kind of convinced on it now because, yes, a B feature might take a little bit longer. Then you're going to run an A feature. And if you split the car count up, I don't know what it's going to do for point wise. I never really thought that deep into it. But it seemed to make the night smoother for those guys. It might be a dirt track. It might be the way they run things. But I thought for that night, being the toilet bowl and everything that they had, I thought the night went smooth. So Denver, I know we could debate this until we're blue in the face. Every time qualifying procedures comes up at a rules meeting, it seems like it's a full-blown conversation. But it's a good problem to have for them. I don't know if they're going to go an A and a B feature or they're going to go a B feature per se and transfer into the A instead of doing two split features. But it's a good problem to have if you're Brent Roy and Speedway 660.
You're right. It definitely is a good problem to have. We talked about, the last couple of weeks about some of the days back at Scotia where, there would be like 100 Dukes cars and you'd have an M or an O feature or whatever, and obviously we're not there yet, but how long has it been since we've talked about B features in the Maritimes? It hasn't been something that's been common lately, especially when you look at some of these starter divisions. So that's huge. And
did we
40 plus?
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
If you take the 30, 40 cars, those drivers are going to start to move up and they're going to fill into that street stock division. They're going to fill into that sportsman division. And it's just going to keep the cycle of the sport healthy. So, obviously you don't want to discourage people from showing up and racing. So it's definitely a fine balancing act. But I'm sure they'll find, the best solution that's going to work all around for points and keeping drivers happy, keeping the show rolling. I know they're going to work hard and try to come up with the best solution there.
I'm going through comments here. Dan McGrath, I know of a good legend car coming out of a place between Truro and Port Hawkesbury. I didn't know Ryan Van Orscott had a legend car. I know he had a sportsman is gone now. He has a pro stock in there now. They were talking about getting a Bandolero for the little fella. So I guess he's got a legend car now. And if not, we started that rumor. Thank you, Dan. Mark Williams is fixing broken parts in the garage. I talked to his driver on Sunday. So I'm sure the driver is out there too. There's the match race comments. Here's one from Blake. And this has been a couple of years down the road in the making that I hope the other racetracks biased on this. I see the Nova Scotia tracks going for a 4:00 start for the tour races. What are your thoughts? I think it's better for the fans to take children to the events and maybe be able to support local businesses like restaurants after the races and teams not being on the road as late at night. I remember sitting in, I'll date myself. This was 5 or 6 years ago now, sitting in a Pro Stock Tour drivers meeting at the Wandeland in Amherst. And I think it was the McKinnon team that stated that if we race at 4, we can still get the boat home, or we can get home at a decent time where, we might leave at 8 a.m. in the morning to come to Scotia or go to Riverside. But if we start at 4, we're done at 8. The show with the Pro Stock Tour show, you've got 1, maybe 2 divisions. For the most part, it's not a long drawn out night. You get to see a good night of racing and you get to go home. And at that point, you don't have to stay. It's an extra night in a hotel. And I know Ken Cunning has been big on that the last couple of seasons, where if we can save them a night in a hotel and with crews, that could be 2, 3, 4 rooms. It adds up. I know from doing the broadcast deal, it adds up real quick. So I like the 4:00 start simply because you can go to the racetrack that day. You don't have a whole lot of pre-race stuff. With our stuff with the broadcast deal, it's different, but you go, you get set up, you have a couple of rounds of practice, you do the race, you have a good time. You can have a couple of drinks with your buddies if you want to do that in the beer garden. And then at the end of the night, and Blake said it too, we're not 1:00 going and trying to find something that's open, whether it's a Boston Pizza or a St. Louis Bar and Grill or whatever it ends up being. But it's one of those things that I like the 4:00 start simply because it's easier than 2 hours might not seem like a whole lot of time, Denver, but it does.
You're right, Tim. And I can speak to that from the Miramichi perspective too, that we have transitioned a fair number of our shows up a little earlier. We kind of try to stick to, a happy medium all around. Typically we go 2:00 in May, 4:00 in June. Then we do a little bit later in July and August. Because the other thing to consider, there's so many factors. Nothing is ever easy. But when you take a really hot day, if you look at the fans' perspective, if you're starting at 2 or 4 on a 40-degree day, well, their chances are they'd probably rather be at the pool. So it's tough. You know, we can't control the weather at the end of the day. You don't get a lot of those days, but 4 o'clock seems to be, you know, that happy medium. You know, we do 1 or 2 6 o'clock shows in Miramichi, just, you know, to try to avoid that midsummer heat and let people enjoy their day out on their Sea-Doos. I know we had one race last year where one of our scorers was on a Sea-Doo until 5 o'clock because we started at 6, and he was able to come in and, you know, great day. Got to go out in the water and watch some racing.
He didn't invite us, by the way.
He did not. I'm a little jealous. Maybe I'll have to get one myself this summer, but you know, it's a tough balancing act. The other thing is you take some fans do work on Saturdays and can't get off to get there at 4. At the end of the day, Tim, we say this all the time. You can never please everybody. There's always going to be people that like 2. There's always going to be people that like 4. There's going to be some people, some old school traditional people that say we should still be starting at 7 o'clock all summer long, which, you know, I guess everyone has the right to their own opinion, but overall that 4 o'clock does seem to be the happy medium, but it's a balancing act, really.
I think Blake can agree 7 o'clock starts at 6:60 when we went to that racetrack were brutal for the tour, because by the time we got out of there, it was 10, 11 o'clock. You tear down the tech gear, you do tech, you're 1 o'clock getting out of there, you burn a night anyway. So you're either traveling home and dodging moose at 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I've done it before, not fun. Or you're staying over the night and then losing half your Sunday traveling home. I mean, from our experience too, Denver, we had a couple of times, I think it was 2 years ago, where we raced at 6 o'clock in Miramichi, long show, went back to the camp, and there was no party left in us because we were all pooped from being at the racetrack. So I can see that side of everything too. Dylan, what's your, you got anything you can throw in here for time?
Well, I kind of agree with Denver. Like, you know, if it's pushing 40 degrees, you know, it's bad enough as an announcer running around the racetrack, but those drivers too, where if it's 40 degrees at the track, it's probably feeling like 140 degrees inside that car, and the fans too. You know, if it's brutal hot and brutal humid, I don't really want to be outside during the day. I want to be at the pool or hanging inside with air conditioning, and then going later on. And then it's finding that fine line. I prefer the shorter shows, but I'll give you an example about how one time I was at a show and I kind of felt ripped off time-wise, but then I thought, wait a minute, no, it just went so smooth. So, you know, there's been some races here in the Maritimes where it's gone on for what feels like 10 hours, but realistically, it's been 7 or 8 hours. I went to a dirt track out in Washington State, Skagit Speedway. Show was 2 hours, bang on, with heat races and features. And I remember I looked at Chantel, who's the fiance, not a super big race fan. We saw 360 sprint cars and the UMP dirt mods and some mini stocks. And I said, I feel a little ripped off. Like, that was only a 2-hour show. And she goes, well, that's a long time. And I said, well, compared to what we do sometimes in the Maritimes, that's short. But really, it was quick and dirty. We got to the track, and it was a 35-minute back drive to where we were staying. But it was wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, 2 hours, and we were done. And it was great racing. So it's finding that line of not trying to make it seem like there's not a lot there, because we're asking for fans and drivers and crew and everyone to be there for a few hours. You know, we want to give the money's worth, right? We don't want to be doing it for 2 hours. I think the 3 to 4 hour show, right, what we agree is kind of like the medium we want to go for, is around there. Not too short, but not too long, right?
I think, and I'd have to go back to the survey that we did on the Tim's Corner Best of Awards, but I think the sweet spot was like 3 to 3.5 hours. That's the attention span. You don't want to go any longer because you know, especially if it's a night late in the summer, it's getting cold, you know, what have you. The attention span's not there. 3 to 3.5 hours is a great show. If you can't fit it into 3, obviously I understand red flags, whatever else. Robbie Frazier is going to tell me that he'd be there all night long, and this is a dead conversation. But I think for most people, for a show, for your fair weather fan, because yeah, we can talk back gate driven all we want to with this sport, but if it's without the front gate fans, these racetracks don't exist. We did have a couple of races during COVID where we had to get the ball rolling in order to make it happen and make, you know, mortgage payments and what have you. But it's always nice to have some fans at the front gate to come through. If they're there for 6 hours, chances are they're not coming back. If they're a fair weather fan, they're coming for the first time. If they're there for 6 hours, they are not coming back the next time unless they really enjoyed themselves. So you got to understand that too. Us, we'd be there for 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning if we absolutely had to. But you're also looking at that side of the other coin where there's fans and you're trying to attract people and what have you. It's if we all had Cy Harvey said a couple of times last week about the magic pill. If we had the magic pill, everybody would be happy. Everybody's car would be fast. We'd have good racing. Everybody be happy, go home and do it again. And what have you, but nobody has the magic pill and nobody has the right answers to everything. Mark Kingston asked about the broadcast schedule for us this season. I can tell you, I don't think it's going to change a whole lot compared to what we had last year. We were hoping to have Petty Raceway live this year. We are still working out some logistics on technology. I'll just leave it at that. But if we get those worked out, we'll have Petty live on our schedule too. Haven't chatted with Oyster Bed yet. But again, there's a little bit of infrastructure issue there on our tech trying to get out from the racetrack. I can tell you that we're close to making announcements on other racetracks, but it's going to look much of the same that it was last week. Oh, by the way, Paul, are you still awake?
Just barely. Yes. I'm
Okay.
here. Hi.
Okay. Hi. Pop up the Hickory logo or splash that we have there.
Thingy.
Hickory 2 Hickory right there. Look at that. Take the date down. There we go. Hold on, stand by. Move that up there. There we go. And good. So just announced, surprise, if you have a Tim's Corner TV subscription, you will be able to watch the Tough Shed 250 from Hickory Motor Speedway for the Cars Tour this weekend on Tim's Corner TV. So Austin McDonald obviously is a part of the Cars Tour now this season. So you'll be able to watch him from Hickory Motor Speedway. The late model stock race at Caraway, by the way, on demand. You can go watch that on Tim's Corner TV. Huge thank you to Tony Stevens and Pit Row TV for allowing us to have a couple of races at the start of the season for our subscribers. That Caraway race was great. I'm biased because I was in the tower for it, but it was a great show. You'll get to see the pro lates and the late model stocks this week. And it's with your subscription. So if you don't have a winter pass yet, head over there and get your winter pass. And Saturday night, you can sit back and watch some great racing from the Hickory Motor Speedway with Tony Stevens, Lenny Baticki, and I think Tyler Williams on the call as well. Great group. Hickory's always great. And the Car Store always provides some great entertainment. So free bonus with your pass. And Paul, do you have the giveaway graphic while we're at it? If you go and you purchase your subscription this month, you can head over to timscorner.ca/promo and fill out a ballot to win a $50 voucher or $50 cash for your favorite driver, some tickets to either Speedway, Miramichi, or Scotia Speed World at the start of the season. It was supposed to be a February giveaway. Everybody that filled out the ballot did not purchase anything, so we're rolling it over to March. So go over, purchase your subscription for this weekend, watch the Hickory race, go over to timscorner.ca, fill out the giveaway, give out the ballot, and you could win your favorite driver $50. And hey, if you are your favorite driver and you fill out your information and you've raced at one of our live tracks last year, you win yourself $50. It's easy. So go over, pay for your subscription, make your money back. We're not picky. So just a little bit extra that you can do while we're talking about broadcast stuff. So thank you, Mark Kingston. Look, he's racing street stock this year, isn't he, Denver?
He is racing street stock this year, moving up from the bomber division. So, and I can say that we're looking at Mark, speaking to Miramichi, should be Tim, I think every race live this year, and we might be up in the game a little bit, but I guess our producer, Paul, is looking at racing a street stock this year. So we're going to have to get Paul to come up and take on Mark at the Very Best Fall Shootout on the 1st of October.
I mean, I'm totally, if there's a car with a big enough seat in it, I think I'm like, what's the fat guy seat, like a 17 or something like that? And I'm going to have to get a custom built suit. I think they go up to like 6XL, but I would love that. I'd love to get around a racetrack. I know I'm coming back to the street stock division at Stafford, July 1st. 2 weeks before the New Hampshire Dirt Duels, so check that out if you want to make a trip out of it. But I'd love to come up there and jump in. Hell, I'll race Dillon in a minivan.
Is that a threat?
It's a challenge.
Let me tell you something, brother. This Pontiac Montana.
What?
It's gonna
Holy
drive you back.
trumpets.
Yeah.
Leave us some comments, by the way. You would fit in my mod. I don't know if that's to that might be to Paul.
Ooh.
Is that a Valentine's Day card or something? Like you'd fit in my mod.
I'd let you sit in my race car.
Dougie, you know what though? That would probably work. How would you feel doing some modified racing up in the She?
Yeah, I'm down. If it's got a tack and a steering wheel, I'll figure it out.
There you go.
So if it
He
has
said
tack-
he said
Yeah.
figure it out. He sounds
Yeah.
Canadian.
I caught that, but I was just going to let that slide. So if it has a tack and a steering, it needs tires, it needs wheels, it needs like there's things it needs.
Well, I mean, the basic necessities, yeah, but that's minor
Oh.
details.
Dan McGrath.
Yeah. Where,
Oh, now
yeah.
I got 3 races on the schedule this year. Let's go. Keep them coming.
Well, no, you're gonna need two. You're gonna need 2 minivans now. You're gonna need one for Dylan, one for Dylan,
Preferably
for
one that was
Paul.
not in a mud pit previously.
Man, that'd be great. I showed my family that race, and because just over the holidays, they were saying, "Oh, you did a race back in 2020," and I showed them, and there's one on YouTube that was shot from the crowd, and you can see me race a bit more in it than the TCM feed. And, let's just say there's not a lot of racing on my end, but they just couldn't believe having 45 cars and vans on track at the same time, intentionally wrecking each other. And, I'm coasting in the back, almost wrecking right away. And, it's all in my front windshield. But yeah, man, it brought back some great memories. That was such a fun time. That was great. Go to get Blankhorn to supply the other. We'll see if Dylan can hook up Dylan.
I'm sure he's got some demo cars sitting in the back somewhere because I know he hasn't run a demo in the last couple of years. But there's another. If we're talking about, and I said before, like your Kevin Grants, your Bob McDonald's, those guys that are demo guys, your Tim Higgins, Too Much Nelson, Mr. Terry Nelson. He's done 160,000 derbies or something. I'd love to see those guys in Miramichi. I think Bob had said they hit too hard for him. Somebody said last year or the year before they hit too hard for them. I heard Kevin Grant's coming out of retirement, by the way. The Truro, I haven't heard from Andrew Peterson or Luke Richard about the Truro Derby yet, but if it does happen and the Truro exhibition does happen, that's another thing on my radar because it usually happens Wednesday, Thursday. It's like in the middle of the week. That's one of those deals that I love to get out to because it's a different breed. You pack the place full around the ring. It's something that if you've never been to the Truro exhibition for the Derby, you have to go down there. I'm still looking through comments. We missed a few earlier. Freddie Bannister wants to know, is there any new mod drivers coming this year or part-time? Crocker and Tristan Harris, I think, right?
That is correct. I wasn't going to be the one to say it. I didn't know if that was official or released yet, but yeah, it's official now.
Well, I got my information from Brody Levesque. Let's put it that way. So if anything happens, it came from Brody because he told me he told me the day I was flying out to North Carolina was when we had that conversation. So it could have changed. They could have sold their cars by now.
Well, I know Tristan Harris's car has been in the Hoyt Motorsports compound, getting prepared for the season. It's the car that Jonathan Dixon drove at the Very Best Fall Shootout last year. Matt Crocker is also going to be behind the wheel, and those are the two new drivers per se. But I know there's a couple other cars getting ready. You might see a rotation of drivers once those cars are ready to hit the track. So it should be another exciting year for the modifieds.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, a decent. I want to get up to a couple of races, but again, I don't know what my schedule is going to hold. I said 2 years ago that I was scaling back on my schedule and doing more stuff that I want to, just going to racetracks when I want to. That obviously did not happen, and I don't think it's going to happen this year because between our broadcast schedule between Scotia, Riverside, potentially Sydney. I want to get to Miramichi a couple of times. Obviously, Maritime Pro Stock Tour races. My schedule is about as busy as Dylan's because he's got like hot rods and sportsmen and anything else that comes up at him. That it's going to be busy. But I want to get to Miramichi and I want to get to a couple of more mod races this year outside of Speed Weekend. Sean Furlong's coming out of retirement to go to race at Riverside.
He's kind of like Adam Plorden has retired about 5-10 times. I think Sean may have retired 3 times in one day, one time. I don't know. Maybe someone can correct that for me. But I know Sean's retired a couple of times throughout his career. We like we've said multiple times, like they never actually use that. Our word never actually stays true.
I think Kenny McKenzie Sr.'s like that too, because I think he's retired a couple of times and he's come back. So,
I think we need to get Kenny Sr. in a grudge match with Kenny Jr.
Oh boy, yeah. Can we put Sherry in a car too? Can we have three? And
no, we need to have.
Sherry used to race her women on wheels. She would beat them both.
I think we should put Sherry in the grandstands and put a camera on her the whole time.
She'd just be laughing all the time. I think she'd enjoy herself more than anything. But we need to put her in a car. Sean says 5 times in one night, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, you had the number off just a little bit, but there's another guy that always puts on a show when he's on the racetrack. I'd love to see Sean back on the racetrack.
Wreck-It Ralph.
Yes. Ryan Spencer, for somebody looking to get into a race car for the first time in Petty, would it be better to build a mini stock or a bomber and travel to 660? I guess that's really how much racing do you want to do? What's your budget? I think the easiest thing that works at both racetracks is a Neon or a Cavalier. Obviously the mini stock tours go into 660 a couple of times. So if you want to race, a handful of times a year, build a Civic and go racing. A bomber car, if you're going to Miramichi, is the easy answer, unless you want to go up into a street stock or a mod. I think the bomber is the easy answer, but I guess it all depends on how much racing you want to do, right?
Absolutely. I think the bomber class has become the most affordable class. And I know we have drivers, from Western New Brunswick, the bomber class, because it's cheaper, they haul over to Miramichi, and so it's definitely a cheap option. 4 cylinders is a great option. If you're looking into something a little bigger, I'd say modified's probably your cheapest bet. A little bit cheaper than street stock, not by much, but the used tire rule definitely helps cut the cost down. So there is lots of great options, but definitely bomber or mini stock. You can't go wrong with either of those for a starter class. But hey, if you have the money, no hurt looking into a modified. You can get a hold of Doug or Joe, and even a street stock. I know there's lots of street stocks for sale, and then you can really get into some of those big 100-lap races and chase big money and trophies.
Alicia McKnight says Sherry won with the carts in Miramichi, so she's already got one win. Apparently.
She's got one win, yeah.
Now, Ryan also asked a question. Speaking of U.S. drivers, do you think they will come up for some of the big races here this summer? Obviously, it's going to be easier with the border.
We scored. Sorry, I'm watching the
Who are they playing? Does it
Mckay
matter?
have just scored. It's the Devils.
Oh, okay. Paul, we're gonna. Dylan, do you want to see how we get Denver on a roll? Paul,
Sure.
throw up the pass announcement from earlier today.
Oh boy.
For those that haven't seen it yet, we're going to cover Dillon's face here. But essentially, they're limiting chassis builders unless you're approved. And currently, there's only 3 chassis builders on there: Distance Racing, Dale Shaw Race Cars, and Jeremy Davis Race Cars. We're going to leave that on the screen for a moment because Dylan's going to do his victory dance because his Toronto Maple Leafs scored.
No, they just tied the game. I'm not getting ahead of myself.
Whatever. So you can read
Drew is celebrating. I know he is.
I'm sure he is.
He's celebrating with Justin Bieber because it's Justin Bieber jersey night there.
So, I'm sure. Yeah. Anyways, Denver, the USA drivers coming up. Obviously, this has been the big news today about Pass doing this, good, bad, right, wrong, whatever. You can make your assumptions or your opinions, whatever else. But to Ryan's point, I don't think this hurts because they can bring their Hamkeys, their Furies, their Port Cities, their whatever's not on that list and come up and race whatever pro stock race they want to in the Maritimes.
You're absolutely correct, Tim. This could, depending on how this plays out, it could definitely benefit us up here in Atlantic Canada. The Oxford 250 is far and away the biggest race in New England. And as of right now, there is some drivers that cannot race the Oxford 250. If you look at the schedule, the weekend after that is the New Brunswick 250, the Remax 250 at Speedway 660. So if you can't go around Oxford, I'm sure we'd see drivers circle Speedway 660 on their calendar. Now, the question is obviously going to be, how long will how is this going to play out? And I don't think anyone really knows. There's a lot of confusion surrounding this. They said the current certified builders are Distance Racing, Dale Shaw Race Cars, Jeremy Davis Race Cars. They only listed 3. So there's a lot of questions. What about Furies? What about Port Cities? I think a lot of the conversation is kind of revolving around Hamke. I don't know exactly, Pass hasn't put out a lot of information other than people have to get their chassis approved. But the speculation is it has to do with the number of bars on the driver's side. The Mckay cars, some of them have been built with 3. And I believe this is not a new issue with Pass either. This is something that they had raised a red flag with. I believe it was in last year, but it might have been in 2020. I believe it was back when before it switched from Rowdy manufacturing back to Mckay. So that's something that is being it's believed to be more so targeting Mckay. But I mean, obviously Fury's not on that list. We have a lot of Fury cars in the Maritimes.
Okay.
Port City.
Hold on. Take the Pass announcement off the screen for a second. Dillon's face here. Jersey just scored.
F. Nico Heischer.
Okay, put the Pass announcement back up. Continue.
Oh my God. But anyways, yeah. So there's a lot, on the face, this appears to be Tom Mayberry in the Pro All-Star Series flexing their power muscle and saying, look, we have chassis builders that aren't conforming to what we want, the super late model, what we want our division to look like. And for that reason, we're going to single them out and force them to make changes, or else they're not going to be able to compete with us. Of course, what sort of wide-reaching effects is this going to have across the racing scene? Because obviously you look at the super late models across the board, and Mckay's run everywhere. Mckay's actually won, I believe, both races this past weekend. So it's how's it going to affect things? The Granite State Pro Stock Series might stand to benefit from this. Personally, I don't think this is going to last long term. I think this is simply just past, kind of saying, using their power to say, look, we want this to be a certain way. But again, there's not a lot of information about it. I know Matt Weaver of Racing America has been trying to get information, and so far hasn't heard anything from Pat.
Okay, hold on. Take the Pass announcement down.
Is there another goal?
What?
Mitch Martiner.
What is going on? Are they all like?
I had the game on my phone, and which, but I don't know. I don't know. Just listening to this wonderful conversation about pass and
Seeing
pass the puck.
I think Blake's watching the game too. I'm not even watching the game. I'm just watching Facebook, and I'm telling Paul when to. We're good now, but yeah, it's going to be something that is going to shake the trees a little bit. I think, I could be wrong, but I think there was talk on the Pro Stock Tour side back before the pandemic about bars and chassis and everything else. And I don't know if there was anything done. I think there was something that was supposed to be done, and then the pandemic hit and rules got changed and didn't get changed and whatever else. So I guess the easiest thing for this deal is to say, stay tuned, because who knows what's going to happen here in the next coming days, weeks. Obviously they've got 2 big races coming up with Thompson and Loudon coming up back to back here in April. So we'll see what happens and go from there, because obviously we've got a lot of teams and a lot of fans that go down to those Pro All-Star Series races. And obviously we had Ford Hickory go down and compete down there. So wait and see what happens and go from there. By the way, I was supposed to mention this earlier. We're almost to the end of the show. Drew streaming 2 minutes later.
Sorry, buddy.
Oops. I was talking to Tara Foster earlier, and she told me we're looking for a Bandolero sponsor at Scotia. So everything else division-wise is sold, spoken for, ready to go. She is trying to sell some back straightaway billboards too. Dillon, if you remember last year, we were trying to sell those during some of the shows last year, and we actually had a couple of bites. But she told me if you buy the Bandolero division, she's going to give you a sale or going to give you a discount on one of those billboards in the back straightaway. But she told me she did have the Bandolero division. The leaderboard is still up for grabs. Obviously, they're still doing the souvenir program this year for both the East Coast International Pro Stock Tour and Scotia Speed World. So if you want to support racing in Halifax and racing as a whole, whether it's an ad, and the ads are affordable in those publications. We did one last year on the Scotia side for TCM TV. Get a hold of Tara Foster and put your name out there. And I can tell you I had this conversation with somebody earlier talking about the cost and the advertising and what have you. If you're looking for a way to advertise an affordable way in Halifax, is Scotia Speed World compared to some of the other racetracks and what they charge for, title sponsorships on divisions and races and what have you. The Bandolero deal is a smoking deal. Plus, if she's going to give you a little bit of a discount on a billboard, contact Tara Foster. That's all I can say right now. If you're looking for something like that, but I did mention to her that we would put that out on the show at some point. I know she won't come on camera because I know she's camera shy, but it would be an interesting conversation to have her on the show because she's been involved in this deal for so long, and with the marketing and everything that she's done and seeing everything behind the scenes, it would be an interesting conversation with her. We might have to twist her arm and try to get her on camera one of these nights. Don't think it's going to happen, but it might be there. Jordan Bino, I think these cars are getting too late. They're bending center sections up here. It's not too bad, but down south in those half mile and bigger tracks, it's getting bad and someone's going to get hurt. And that was the big safety thing with that pass deal too, is trying to bring that back. So we'll see what comes of it in the next couple of weeks. It's obviously created the rock has been dropped in the pond, and obviously the ripples are coming out now. So we'll wait and see what transpires from there. But we've had a fun night so far. We've got about 20-ish minutes if we want to go that far. We'll make last call on social media. If anybody's got any more questions, comments, what have you. Next week is busy for us. I believe, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, if you're up for some super speedway racing on Monday, we may broadcast a TCM race. I'm still trying to get the advertiser confirmed on that. If we get that confirmed, we'll be broadcasting on Monday night with the super speedway deal on TCM for iRacing. Noel Fougier has the point lead on that. And then Smashed Potatoes next week as well. We may or may not broadcast that next Thursday, but that's going to happen for all you iRacers. And then our 250, our finale, comes up in 2 weeks' time. So we've still got plenty of stuff to do on the iRacing side before this thing is all said and done. So, and NEP's coming up tomorrow, right, Paul?
Yeah, championship night tomorrow night. Kind of a home track for a lot of the drivers in the Northeast New England part of the country, America down here, and it's going to be big. It looks like John Peters is going to be wrapping up his third championship in a row. Three-time Northeast Pennsylvania,
WCW,
New England WCW champion, 24/7, 7-Eleven champion. But that's going to be a lot of fun. Those guys always put on a fantastic show. TCM shows are fantastic. And I guess if we don't have any advertising partners next week and we're not broadcasting, maybe I'll dust off the old steering wheel and jump in.
Whoa. What happened the last time you were in a super speedway race?
I wrecked half the field in a Liberty Racing series. Sorry, Wes, and everybody else involved in that points paying race. But maybe third time's the charm.
The last time, by the way, the only reason why we're doing a second super speedway race is because the first time we did one, we had the field fill. I think we had 52 spots or 50 spots. Anyways, we filled the field with like 15 minutes to go. There were two drivers that didn't get in, Dale Glessner, and Dale found out late for the race anyway, so we'll let him pass on that. Brent Roy knew since the start of the season we were doing the show and pitched a fit when he didn't get in, even though practice was open for 45 minutes before we closed the session. So that is why we are doing it, and I know there's a couple of others that want more.
Maybe we can get Brent to sponsor the Super Speedway series race, or the Super Speedway race on Monday, and we'll just give him the password first. That way he definitely gets in.
Well, there's no password. It's a league race, so you hop in. We are gonna. I think that the maximum is 60 or 62. So when we haven't had that this year, so hopefully, I hope we see 60 something drivers. We're gonna have to split up and do like separate heats. But anyways, that's next week. Smashed Potatoes week next week as well. I think we talked about it after the race. We might do the old trucks for the Smashed Potatoes race, just because it's on the old damage model, and it's something that's most people relatively have. So keep your eye out for that. Ryan McKnight wants to know: are you guys going to Radical Speed Sport in Moncton in April? That is, for me, that's a plan. I know Denver, that's a plan for you. Dylan hasn't got his autograph contract in yet, so I don't know if he's going to be there or not. But
I'd be interested if someone from the city's going up. Let me know, and maybe we can hitch a ride if you're doing a day rip. I'd be interested into going up there. I've been in the old Moncton Coliseum in about a decade, so it'd be nice to get up there. I've never been to Radical Speed Sport either, and to check that out. So you never know. It's not a whole lot going on in the end of April here in Nova Scotia, so we'll see.
Yeah, and I know we've been having conversations about the endurance race, the icebreaker that we usually do. It's been canceled the last 2 years due to COVID. Me and Gerald are just trying to figure out and concrete a date. I would like to do it in April. I know he's got some dates that don't work. I've got some dates that don't work. He brought up the car show. I don't know if we can jet out on a Saturday or a Sunday, especially on a show that's going to be this busy by the sounds of it, to go out and do that. So we're still trying to figure out when that's going to happen. Stay tuned because I want to do it. Obviously, Cart Bond does not exist right now in Halifax. I know the itch has been there.
They made a post.
Did they?
They made a post that they're not. They didn't put out a location, but there is an update from Cart Bond.
Yeah, Paige had mentioned that to me on Monday night when we were doing the iRacing deal, but there's no location yet. So
I saw some of their trucks at the exhibition center last year. So
I think that's where they've been parking because they don't have a place.
That would, you know what? There's a lot of real estate in that place. A lot of space in that building. That'd be a fun little track.
That'd be a neat place to go. I haven't heard anything from Lucas yet, and hopefully we can do something in the winter because I miss the shootouts that we've done throughout. Colin Brewer wants to know how about my pickup, Travis Durbin. Oh, the Vancouver Canucks. I'm just hoping we make the playoffs. Unlike Toronto, who's going to probably make the playoffs and be out round one, we're going to probably be golfing with the same amount of playoff wins.
Hey,
Anyways.
well, you know, hey, wait, well,
Hey.
How deep would the playoffs be around speed sport? I mean, we could maybe go to St. Louis after and cheer on the Maple Leafs there. Oh, wait a minute, I'm banned, aren't I?
Yeah, something like that. Well, the Canadians aren't making the playoffs anyway, so. I've got a friend of mine that said we should come. I should go out and watch some Calgary playoff hockey in May because the Canucks aren't going to be playing in the playoffs. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Adam Hiscock wants to have a conversation about breakout drivers to look out for in 2022. That's a loaded question because me and Denver and Dylan and the rest of our panel had that conversation about how do you justify a breakout driver? Where's the ceiling? I think the biggest conversation that we had when we did that breakout award last year was Owen Marr because he had a great season, but I think the way he's driving and the speed he has, the ceiling is higher. It wouldn't surprise me for Owen to go out and win 3 or 4 races this year on that League of Legends tour, win a couple of races in Halifax, contend for a championship, and pick up some big wins. Obviously, Speed Weekend was huge for him last year, but I think if we're talking, and the breakout deal is a touchy subject, but I think Owen Marr's name, I think probably has to be there, at least on the legend side. You look at some pro stock guys, there's some drivers that want to get some more, wins in and what have you. The eastbound side of things, obviously we saw a breakout year from Sarah Thorne last year. Who's going to be that Sarah Thorne to rack up races in Newfoundland? Who do you got your eye on, Denver?
Like you said, Owen Marr, definitely. I wouldn't be surprised to see him contend for a championship at all. And the way he ended that season, he'll put the field on notice, I'm sure. If we're talking pro stock, and like you said, Tim, breakout is kind of it's a hard term to define, with much clarity. I think 2 drivers for pro stock that everyone should keep their eye on this year: Jared Butcher. And I mean, one could argue he maybe has already broken out, but he hasn't got that big win on the East Coast International Pro Stock Tour yet. And he has been so close. So I got to believe that would be a driver to watch. And, Austin McDonald, I know Austin's running a lot in the States, but he's still looking for, he won a weekly show at 660, but he's also looking for, that bigger win, a 250, a Jim Hollihan race, a Mike Stevens race, one of those big races to win. And another name to throw out there to watch, if as long as he can make it, keep the axles in the car. Russell Smith Jr. If he runs the full tour, it could be the way that car ran at the Jim Hollihan 200. That'd be a driver to watch. Caleb Burkhart in the New Brunswick side, moving up to Sportsman. It's going to be his rookie year. He'll be a driver to watch. Obviously, you got to believe Brandon Carter is only going to rise. After the year he had. Andrew Lively with Sportsman, another name. There's a lot of drivers. Like we said, it's touchy because some of these drivers actually, you could argue they broke out in 2021, but I think they're going to take it that next step up, and they're going to be household names here before long.
Alex Johnson comes to mind too. I know he was a part of our breakout award this year, but there's one trying to win a championship. I think all eyes are going to be on Tanton Woolridge after the season that he's had in Bandoleros and what he does this year. Dylan, you got any eyes on anybody?
Denver kind of stole half the people I was thinking about there.
Yeah.
Like you got an Andrew Lively who was close a few times last year, getting that first win in the Sportsman. I think that's going to be coming here in 2022. Pro stock, I think this is going to be Jared Butcher's year where he'll get his first win. He may get a few as well. But it's really hard to say, with the pro stock last year in the tour, the numbers were pretty low with the border stuff and the drama and this and that and low car counts. But I think this year it's going to be a healthy car count. We may not see Blankhorn be running as much. It sounds like he might be doing a little bit of sportsman racing, maybe, for all we know. But it's hard to say. But I think that 54, we're going to see getting a couple of checkered flags potentially. That could be a breakout one. You mentioned Russell Smith Jr. Man, that number 80. I'm trying to think. It was 88. That was his number at Scotia. That thing was fast until Dillon started talking about him, and then his axles broke. There's a lot of drivers who could surprise us this year, I think. It's hard to say. It's a loaded question, like you said.
And you come around to the pro stock conversation. Obviously, Pete Miller is going to be back in select races in the 80 car. That the Ace in the Hole special, the Tom Sims special. Ryan Van Orscott's going to be there for a ton of races. We're going to talk about him because I know he's watching. Jordan Vino obviously ended the season well with that race car and goes into 2022 with a lot of momentum on the pro stock side as well. And obviously he's one of the best shoes to sit in the sportsman car the last couple of years. So you look at names that you're excited for. There's a lot that are going to surprise us. It's going to be one of those deals where we go to a racetrack and day one, we might not have people on our radar. Then all of a sudden, I think back to a couple of years ago where, Rick Cashel kind of went through his little bit of a slump. And then all of a sudden, I think it was 2020 when we had the delayed season. And all of a sudden, he's in victory lane out of nowhere. So it's one of those deals where I think we're going to have, and especially with COVID and everything happening and, potentially a tire shortage and drivers trying to watch that. It's going to be something to watch. Stacey Clements, I will be returning tomorrow from St. Stephen to Moncton and returning to Halifax on Saturday if somebody needs parts brought back. So there you go. If you need parts brought back from New Brunswick, talk to Stacey. Do you need anything brought back from New Brunswick, Dillon?
No, I don't. I thank you though. But there's already been a lot of surprises with the big racing leagues. Formula One. Haas is third in the constructor championship right now. I know it's only after one race, but seriously, that's one of your lower end teams in Formula One to call Formula One low end racing. But seriously, in NASCAR this year with the Cup Series, how many surprises has there already been, especially, at Atlanta this past weekend, where some of the drivers who have been in that 35th to 40th position, some got top 20s. Corey LaJoie in that number 7 got a top 10 finish 6th. So there's been a lot of surprises. And I don't think the surprises are done on the big scale and then here in the Maritimes. I think it's going to be a very surprising year coming up, especially with shortages too, or it's going to throw another wrench in the plans.
Sean Pierce says, hope to build on my second place finish at Lake Dowsett. Sorry, I almost screwed that up. Who knows? And that's it. It's a blank sheet of paper on race number 1. I asked Tara today, I said, are we doing a test and tune in Scotia? That kind of gives you a gauge as to at least who's out there and who might be ones to watch. Stay tuned on that, by the way. Taylor Albert, Ross Chastain's having a huge breakout year so far.
Absolutely.
Trackhouse has been killing it this year between Ross and Suarez. It's been insane.
Yeah, it's good to see that. It's good to see the new winners to parity with that next gen car. And
I'm sure Chase Briscoe bringing the 14 back to victory lane.
I know you're a Stuart Haas fan.
Well, I was a lifelong Tony Stewart fan.
Yeah.
So, I remember watching that red number 14, go into that championship in the tiebreaker in 2011. So to see it back in victory lane, that was a pretty sweet deal to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. It continues to grow. We continue to see new winners, and it's great for the sport. At the end of the day, cheap NB beer would be nice. I didn't think Rob was picky on beer though.
Rob, are you going to Blue Rodeo on Saturday?
Yeah, so I didn't even know there was a Blue Rodeo concert this weekend. I'm supposed to be going to Fredericton on Saturday. I looked at the weather. The weather looks a little bit dicey potentially for Saturday, so we might dodge a little bit of some of that stuff. But I didn't know Blue Rodeo was in Nova Scotia until earlier tonight.
You don't watch my TikToks then, because I talked about that back in the
I
fall.
Definitely do not watch your TikToks.
No, it's
I'll say the same thing I did last year when Meg was co-hosting with me. Meg has tried to get me on TikTok. Destiny Tucker has tried to get me on TikTok. I think Sarah Mckay at one point has tried to get me on TikTok. It hasn't worked.
Tim,
Yep.
Do you realize that you're now starting to sound like the old person? You know, for years and years and years, it was let's try to get John O'Shea and Wade Wilson on Twitter, and now it's let's try to get Tim Terry on TikTok.
Yeah, it's just not happening.
Tim, you should get a TikTok. You really should.
Does John O'Shea have a TikTok?
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
We got to be able to pull up the audio from, I think it was the August race at Miramichi, the Crash for Cash, when TikTok came up as a conversation in the tower. There's a video of it because I took the clip of it and sent it to John, and it was something along the lines of, you know, his wife has TikTok, and it was that "Oh No" song, and he said, told her if he ever heard it again, he was going to throw her iPad out the window.
That's yeah. I have fun when I go to Miramichi because listening to John is great, and trying to push the buttons is even better. I'm looking forward. I got to find a date in my schedule to get to Miramichi at some point this summer. But yeah, cheap NB beer. I didn't think Rob was picky on beer.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about. Yeah, I guess the 2-4s are still. They still got that 2-4 deal. I think for your Bud and Bud Light. I think for that.
See, in New Brunswick, we just talked about the cheap Quebec beer.
You just go to Quebec.
Yeah. That's. I was gonna say me and Braden Langell and Robbie Thompson can tell you a story about cheap beer in Quebec. But we're getting close to the top of the hour, so that might
Rob
be.
Dislikes Blue Rodeo, Dylan. He will not be there.
Wow.
Well, okay, and I kind of get that because Blue Rodeo are a bit more on the countryside, but you know they had a couple of you know when I worked at rock radio stations, we played a little Blue Rodeo, and my folks are excited. It's my first time going to the Scotiabank Center in Halifax since November 2019 this weekend, so I'm very excited.
I can't remember the last time I was at the Scotiabank Center.
I was there in November, December, or something like that.
I want to say for me, it's been like 4 or 5 years, and I live like 10 minutes away.
Were you in a skybox with Cody Quinn and
that actually, you know what? That would have been the last time. It would have been the skybox. We parked the limo downtown, and for some reason it didn't get towed because it was in a place it probably should have been. But yeah, that was probably it. Colin Brewer wants to know what a TikTok is. It's a breath mint.
Yeah.
And Rob Bonus, you talk about Rob not liking country music. He loves George Jones, especially 9 a.m. on race day. So just throwing that out there. If you're ever at Scotia Speedworld and you're camping and all of a sudden you hear a little white lightning come across the PA system, that is all for Rob Bonus.
So, listen, if Rob ever plans on coming to Miramichi, we might have to make sure it's maybe even a 12 o'clock start time so that we don't have the rural route come on 99.3 the river during one of our races.
Jim Cuddy is an awesome performer. I didn't know Blue. If I knew Blue Rodeo was in town, I would have told the folks at a meeting in Fredericton that we are meeting next weekend. But
well, hold on a minute. Let me see when they're playing that because I'm guessing they're probably playing in New Brunswick.
But I'm going up and coming back.
Yeah, but you may have to stay though to see Jim Cuddy.
I have an AGM for the mini stock tour the next day.
They can wait. Maybe they're playing in Truro.
I doubt they're playing in Truro. They canceled the Clint Black concert. I couldn't make Clint Black anyway. Yeah, they canceled it like 2 weeks ago.
Oh man.
And I mean I'm a huge fan of like 90s country. Clint Black would have been right up my alley.
So they're playing what day is it today? Today's 23rd. Okay. Yep. So they're in St. John tomorrow. Then they're in Summerside. So for all the Islanders watching, they're playing in Summerside. Then they're in Halifax. And then you got to go to Peterborough. So go. Go with Rob. You can go to Peterborough.
I love Peterborough. Great place. Only played because of Canadian content.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Rob. We had to play at my country station. We had to play more Canadian music because of the CRTC. 40% of it has to be Canadian. That was 35 of the Q104 days back in the day.
So Dylan is going to have to take up country music now that you do TikToks. You can take up country music and play yourself on radio,
I'm going to a karaoke night for the first time in a while on Friday. I'm going to sing Blue Rodeo, and I'm going to dedicate it to Rob.
The last time I sung karaoke, Denver.
There's a Facebook Live video somewhere archived.
Oh, it got deleted.
No, there's archives of it. I have a copy. I just have to find it. And it might not be the official Facebook Live version, but it's something. Someday we might want to put it up for an auction. Someone will be going once, going twice sold or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
It'll be worth some money.
Yeah, we there is video. I think it's lost video, and Tony Stevens probably would find it. We did the Cars Tour Media Day or Production Day about a month ago now, and one of the questions we asked rapid fire to the drivers, "What's your favorite karaoke song?" I busted into like one verse of Mercury Blues because our favorite karaoke star is Six Pack. So I busted into about a line or two of Alan Jackson's Mercury Blues, and that's not happening again. So hopefully that piece of video, I'm behind the camera, so it doesn't really matter. But
you got to remember, one time that piece of audio, we used that for our sound check. So everyone that lives in the trailer park next to Speedway Miramichi, they got the whole clip.
That might be something we have to do, because we had talked before, Dylan, about doing the Tim's Corner live show from the racetrack on IWK weekend. We talked about that in September. Maybe that's something. Maybe we can do like a karaoke night when we do the live show, actually live. That might be something we have to work on, because I know there's some drivers out there with some hidden talents. I'm sure we could get an audio. Yeah, well,
Tim, what was the nickname for Bud Lights that you had?
Blue Yummies.
Blue Yummies. Oh my gosh, my mom was drinking Bud Light, and I'm like, oh, what was the nickname? I said Blue something. So when I go to Blue Rodeo this weekend, we're gonna have some Blue Yummies where we go and sing along.
Absolutely. I know there was did we do any karaoke at the camp a couple of years ago? I don't think there was.
No, absolutely not.
Okay. If there was, I was drunk enough that I probably wouldn't have remembered. But anyways, those were good nights. Again, I might have to find a trip into Miramichi somehow this summer and make it work. But we're at the top of the hour. We still have, I think, 40 something listeners live. So thank you for sticking with us. You could have done other things with your Wednesday night, but we appreciate you being here with us. Denver, you're gone for the next 4 weeks. So all the best with school.
Thank you.
All the best with Meredith. If you go to the spa, make sure you post a photo of it, because I'm sure there'll be some school celebrations at some point.
No, our school celebrations are going to take us to Monadnock Speedway and Thunder Road Speed Bowl in New Hampshire and Vermont here in about a month's time. So is Chris Wilson going with you? That's the plan.
Okay, so I have to talk to Chris about dumping you off at a spa somewhere.
No, thank you.
Now, there was a story at one point. Yeah, throw our partners up there. Take the rest of the stuff off the screen. Throw the partners up there. There is a story, and I'd have to talk to Scott Williams, pace car driver Scott Williams, because I think they tried to pawn off Mike Kaplan one night on a trip down south. And I don't know the exact story, but that might be something I have to talk to Scott Williams about to get the full story on. There was all kinds of stories about a trip down south and trying to pawn off Mike. Apparently it didn't work because he's still with us. But there was something there. So I'll have to talk to Chris, and maybe we can trade you off for a spa night or something down there. No?
Denver, I'm telling you, man, it'll change your life. You'll be the happiest flag man leading into the first race of the year. And then you'll be pulling your hair out by the end, I bet.
Yeah, well, listen, I was supposed to be the happiest flag man last year, and then we wrecked half the bomber field on the first lap of the first heat race on the very first turn. So then that just ruins everything.
Hold on, Paul, come back to us for a second. We're getting out of here. I see the numbers dropping. They know what's coming. But where did you finish last year in the staff race? That's right, P2.
So
P2. I was told from the tower to black flag you, and I never did. Not going to tell you who told me to black flag you, but that's what was told. Thank you to all the partners, by the way, that you just saw on the screen. They let us have fun on Wednesday nights. Thank you to Paul Strickland Jr., Vidane TV. NEPS is coming up tomorrow night. We got some iRacing stuff next week. We are probably going to have some guests next week. If anybody out there wants to sit in Denver's chair, you're more than welcome to next week, because I know Greg Mckay is back playing basketball on Wednesday nights, I think that's his excuse at least. So if you want to hop on and do social media with us or whatever, again, we're looking for people. Maritime League of Legends is looking for people. Everybody's looking for people. So hop on, and if you're cut out for it, come on in. We might have to get Rob Bonus on the show at some point too. I want to do that. So maybe we'll have to contact Rob, but I know there's some guests we want to get on. We'll work on that for next week. There's some news coming up here in the next couple of days. League of Legends Tour. I know Petty's got stuff. It's going to be a busy week. I just have a feeling. So stick on to timscorner.ca and all that other stuff. Hickory on Saturday night. Get your TCM subscriptions. Watch it. Thank you to Cars Tour TV, and thank you to Tony Stevens at Pit Road TV. That's it. We're done. For Dylan Langell, Denver Matchett, Paul Strickland Jr., my name is Tim Terry. We will see you next Wednesday. Until then, keep the hammer down. We'll see you at the track.
Ricky Miller says hi.
I'm sure he does.